Where are you? Call me as soon as you get in. You're not going to believe this, but I finally got a date with that guy from the lighthouse. You know, the one with the incredible bulge in his pants? I can't believe it. I need to borrow that sexy red dress of yours. I know my tits aren't as big as yours, but I'll still look hot in it. So give me a call right away, okay, Valerie? Thanks.
Welcome to episode 12 of your favorite horror movie podcast, Chopping It Up. Thanks for joining us once again. Here at CIU headquarters, we know summer's over, but that's no reason to give up on your beach body. So in the spirit of pumping iron and staying in shape year round, we're covering one of the little-known horror subgenres, gym horror. Today's episode features two bizarre 1980s films, Killer Workout and Death Spa. Production values are low, but kill counts are high, and these movies place themselves squarely in the slasher genre of horror. We are once again at full strength here. I'm your host, Jesse Goodman. In preparation for this episode, he's been training hard. He's done push-ups, he's done pull-ups, he's done sit-ups, he's done chin-ups. He threw up twice, but he's okay now. Intrepid field reporter and co-host Michael Sled joins us. He's so stupid, mind readers only charge him half price. Joel, you know that's you. Co-host Joel Reeves is also here. I wouldn't trust him if his tongue came notarized. Executive producer and co-host Jay is here as well. And if her skirt were any shorter, it would make a good necklace. Sector 8 drone co-host and executive HR supervisor, Miss Jeannie Simone, is here with her clipboard in tow. Okay, buddies, get your clownishly oversized safety pins ready, boot up the gym computer, squeeze into your neon thongs and headbands, and let's get to it. All right, first impressions and meat cleaver ratings. We're going to go ahead and go to round the horn on this one. I know we have a full cast today. Jay is actually going to take a backseat and stay behind the switchboard for most of the episode. And Sector 8 drone, Miss Jeannie, will join us as full-time co-host for this episode. So let's go ahead. Joel, you lead off. I'll go second, Sled, and then Jeannie, you bring up the rear.
Oh, boy. All right.
Joel, first of all, tell us, guys, before we do this, have you seen either or both or neither?
I had not seen either of these. I have seen the box for Death Spa in many cheap video store when I was younger.
And after
such things existed,
like Captain Video,
yeah,
Bigelow,
exactly.
Yeah, pulling the old one out here.
Yeah, but no, I'd never seen either of these. Anybody else seen any of these?
I'd seen Death Spa. I'd seen them both.
Oh wow. Okay, so
yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, initial thoughts. I'll start with Death Spa. I mean, and it like the first 30 minutes, I was like, this thing is not good. Why is this happening to me? I said your name in vain a few times, Jesse. For picking these. But it won me over by the end. I kind of started to like it, which is a testimony to what's wrong with me. I would say it's probably like a 2.5, maybe a 3 for Death, right? Like, because it's pretty bad, but it's kind of enjoyable, right? Like there's
3 what?
Meat cleavers,
or
stars, or whatever, whatever thing. But yeah, so it kind of won me over by the end. Killer Workout is an abomination. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just going to be officially my lowest scored film thus far. At least for me, did not work. It is a 1 meat cleaver. I really didn't like it, but it's okay. Maybe we'll have some fun discussion.
All right. Unbelievable. All right. Killer Workout. I mean, both of these are bonkers, but Killer Workout's like a fever dream. I mean, I guess they both are. I'll start with Killer Workout. It's basically like a coked up movie exec, like in a conversation with somebody, just like turn this into a movie on like the back of a cocktail napkin. The acting's horrendous. It's hacky. It's schlocky. and it's everything I love in a horror movie. It's overrun with like ancillary characters who have absolutely no fleshed out lives beyond whatever that particular scene like called for them to do. So you kind of miss a lot of stuff. It's actually more confusing than it needs to be, because you're having a hard time following it, because like scenes weren't filmed, explanation, there's no expository, you have no idea what's happening. Characters come and go. I gave it a 3.187-186 meat cleavers. Death Spot, which I'd seen a bunch of times. It's a better movie in terms of cinematography and like general competence, but I'm not sure what that really says, because the bar is pretty low with Killer Workout. Death Spot starts off really good, and it ends up batshit crazy by the end. And I have so many questions, which I guess we'll wait for that segment to get to. But one that just can't wait is like, how did Ken Foree get mixed up in this? Like the only legitimate actor
I have
with
no
chops
idea
at this point. Like, how did he?
idea.
I have to assume that he showed up for the paycheck for this. How big could the paycheck be? Anyway, I do like this movie a lot, especially the last 30 minutes are just off the chart. I gave it a 3.7999991 meat cleavers.
All right. So, I mean, it's always hard because it's like I'm parsing between just, if I was going to say in the standard film context of stars, I think it'd be a stretch to say that either of these is maybe even 1 star. I think maybe would be generous. But so like within the text of cleavers, I guess it's a different world. So
it is.
I had never seen either movie. I'm a better person for it now that I have seen them. I'm definitely more patient and wise.
Lord, shit.
I would probably give, I would say, so I kind of go the other way from you, Joel. So I thought Killer Workout is actually better. It's kind of more, I mean, obviously it's not as slick. I hate to attach slick to Death Spa.
I get what you're saying. It's more competent.
But it's so Death Spa it has more money going into it. Killer Workout, but it was more it's like gloriously unintentionally awful. So that's like kind of one of those things where someone's like trying to make a bad movie like intentionally, but they're also trying to be on the nose with like, we're going to have this thing in it. And I definitely got that feeling from Death Spa that they were trying to be purposeful about having certain themes and look at certain things. Whereas Killer Workout, maybe at points, but a lot of it was just like, I mean, the main point that they were trying to hit was like TNA. That was like the only thing that they really took a lot of effort to emphasize. So it's like unintentionally awful to it seems less aware. It's more earnest. Like I said, female exploitation's front and center, and they're kind of glorying in it, but it also seemed to be genuinely attempting at points to like trying to make a compelling action suspense film. And I would actually say that it's maybe not even horror, but the director even said in an interview that they felt at the time they were making a good movie and had the goal of making a good movie. So I guess I would give it, I'll give it 100% raise to 2 stars or 2 cleavers from the one star. And Death Spa, I'll give 1.5.
Wow. All right. So Killer Workout edged them out. Miss Simone, how do you weigh in?
Yeah, I am a big fan of this genre that I found out to be called slasher sweat. Really both films capitalizing on the aerobics craze of the 80s. I definitely felt like Death Spa was totally trying to make themselves into like a legitimate movie. They were way more cinematic, right? Killer Workout was like, yep, this is nothing but cheesecake, right? I loved the soundtrack for Killer Workout. I'm not going to lie. I will be...
Dude, it fucking bangs.
I will be bumping that out of my RAV4.
So how many meat cleavers?
Well, I know it's meat cleavers, but I feel like for this episode, I'm going to go pelvic thrusts because that is definitely the 80s aerobics move of the year. of that year of these films, and I'm all killer workout. I'm gonna give it 3 pelvic thrusts, and I am gonna give Death Spa. I'm gonna give it 1.5 pelvic thrusts. I like my cheesy slasher movies, and I feel like Death Spa was just trying to be a little pretentious.
So it's like the opposite of mine. Interesting.
Yeah, I just felt like Death Spa was really trying to be a little pretentious when really what it is, you're showing the same amount of tits here. Like, come on, let's not.
You went with pelvic thrusts. That's actually maybe you could almost. This would be offensive, but you could, made me think you could have gone with like meat curtains. It would have been,
yeah,
that would have been appropriate.
Sure.
Also,
I mean,
that's one of my notes was like, why that every 80s aerobic movie, like I'm also thinking of the one with Jamie Lee Curtis and John Travolta. I can't remember what the name of this called. There, it's always the pelvic thrusts are always in there, right? They're always rotating. Yeah. They're always doing it. Like that is just quintessential. And you know, Killer Workout.
I thought you
really
socks. But.
Well, yeah, tube socks as well, but I feel like Killer Workout really, really capitalized on that. They were definitely like pelvic thrusts, and really Death Spa was much more, I'm a dancer, I'm going to dance around, and I'm a real, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, hold on, guys. All right, we got to transition over to Joel's movie stats, where, as you know, he provides some background information on the cast and crew, and how much money the movies made, how they were rated, and how they were reviewed. So I want to do my best before we turn it over for Jazz. I want to do my best Rick Rude impersonation here, Jazz. Hit the music.
All right. Love that song. Okay. I will start with Killer Workout. I mean, I will say anytime we do any of these movies that are how do I say this?
Awesome.
I was gonna say cheap, but okay, awesome. It's really hard to find information on them, right? So Killer Workout. Let's start with it. I can tell you the year it came out. It came out in 1987. It was direct to video, right? So if you've seen it, probably not too big a surprise. And that was kind of at the time when you could mail order videos as well. So like, I believe it actually released earlier in the UK by 6 months to a year. All right. So the director is David Pryor. He's also the writer. And he is probably most noted for a movie called Sledgehammer, which came out in 1983. It was one of the very first of this type of direct-to-video, relatively low-budget films for horror. So that was Sledgehammer was kind of a trailblazer. And a lot of these guys that were involved in Killer Workout are in the same thing. David Winters, I'll skip down to him, who's the producer, was also involved in Sledgehammer. That was one of his first big projects. He's been involved in a few different things, but weirdly, he's got some, I'll say, off-Broadway type, like he's cited for West Side Story and a thing called Dancing It On. I don't even know what those two are.
Did you say, Joel, did you say the producer was who for Killer Workout?
David Winter?
David Winters is one of them. And then I think his brother, Mark Winters.
Oh.
Not Jonathan Winters?
No, not Jonathan Winters, the comedian.
It has. I'm seeing Peter Uval as one of the
bring it up. Can we edit this if I'm wrong?
No, it's fine.
I don't want to leave it in.
Well, now that you said, can we edit it? Now we do have to fucking edit it.
There you go. So suck it. Let me go check.
All right, never mind. It's not important. It doesn't matter. Just
it is important. I'm gonna go check it real quick since you stopped me. Produced by David Winters, Mark Winters. Those are the two executive producers for the film. All right, what are you gonna say, Michael?
Oh, I was gonna say, you mentioned that it was released the direct-to-video. In the direct-to-video in UK, we mentioned it, I think, on the IG account, but it was titled Aerobicide.
Yeah,
in
which
the UK.
actually shows up in the movie, like the spray painting. Someone spray paints Aerobicide. They also weirdly spray paint a death.
Death Spot. Well, see, I have a theory on that, which might not be as strange as you think, because Killer Workout was written in '86 and released in '87.
Okay.
Death Spot, which I know you're going to get to, comes out in '88, but the original script that was written was in '83 or '84, and then it was taken over by one of the other writers, Mitch Paradise, and I think in '86, that's when it was finalized. It sat from '86 to '88. So it's entirely possible that that movie existed when Killer Workout had the scene to spray paint Death Spot on the wall.
Oh, that's weird. All right. So that was producers, cinematographer. It's a guy by the name of Peter Bonilla. So he never Bonilla. He never did cinematography again, ever, as far as I can tell. So,
Really? After Killer Workout, he never did cinematography again?
So if you go look at it, it's not even listed in his credits, yet it is linked to him.
I wouldn't put that on my resume either.
Yeah, like his personal page, he doesn't call it out. But if you go to Killer Workout's page, it's linked over. So it's not like people are jumping to get on the roster of this thing. But he had a ton of like credits as a writer, bunch of little things like that. He was also like a TV actor. So interesting fella. So now you jump down into the past. So I think the one that is probably one of the more interesting is the lead female role, which is I think you say Marcia Carr.
Oh,
Marsha.
I thought it was Marsha, but
it's probably Marsha.
Marsha.
So she shows up in, it's always Marsha, and she shows up in Real Genius as in a, so that's a pretty major major film, but in a fairly minor role. She's one of the people at the party. She's also in a movie called Savage Streets, which I've seen the box, but I've never watched. And she's in Maniac.
So good. I love that movie.
Oh, she's in which one, Gina?
Savage Streets.
I never saw it.
Oh yeah.
Can't mention
Never
Savage
seen that.
Streets without mentioning Chained Heat.
I might have seen Chained Heat.
Okay,
She's in that. She's in that too. That's
I have to say, the fact that she's from Township, New Jersey, for some reason, is perfectly like spot on brand.
That sounds right.
Is exactly right. She's from Jersey,
and like I said, she's in Maniac Cop, which is kind of a big one, right? Like for the horror genre, that's a big deal. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then you go through the others. There's not a ton of meat on the bone here with some of these folks. So I'll just hop along. Like, so Ted Pryor is probably one of the other big ones. I believe he's the detective. Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
well, yes, there's two detectives. I know what you're saying.
No, Ted Pryor is the
undercover.
Ted Pryor is the muscly blonde guy.
Yeah, he's
Chuck Dawson.
Oh,
he's
Chuck.
a private eye.
Private eye. Thank you.
He's a private eye. Yeah.
Chuck
so
the
he's
truck.
in Surf Nazis Must Die. He was in Sledgehammer, that movie I mentioned earlier.
Well, I wanted to say he was in. Actually, I have to take issue with the idea that David Pryor, the director, that his biggest movie was that. It was not. It was Deadly. It was Deadly Prey.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
No, I'm trying to let Joel finish. I got a lot of comments on the.
All right. Well, then let's blow him up after. We'll double team him. Go ahead, Joel.
So what? Yikes. So as Jesse just said, he was in Deadly Prey, which is, I think, came out in '87. which shows up again and again. I think David Winters was involved with that one.
His brother directed and wrote that too. So
David Winters.
David
Interesting.
Pryor. That's Ted. That's his
David
Yeah,
brother.
right. Pryor. Yeah, both of the Pryors are brothers.
So that's, and I guess the only other thing here, there's no budgetary information for this at all. It has I don't know if I said runtime yet, and if you can't tell, again, researching these is kind of difficult, but it has a runtime of 1 hour, 25 minutes. Just for the record, 6 of those minutes is spent on what can best be described as aerobics music videos, right? Which she seems very happy with.
Including like there's an epilogue one, basically, isn't there? Like,
which it runs for 3 minutes. It's insane.
Guys, if you don't appreciate high art, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I just want to, before we jump on too much here,
Well,
there are a couple other people that I want to
go
talk
for it.
about. I want to talk about Debbie, my favorite character. She was the one who propositions Chuck in the alley, and they go home to her house.
Oh yeah.
She was in Surf Nazis Must Die also.
Okay.
Lieutenant Morgan, the actual detective who I think Sled was referencing, was also in Deadly Prey. And the guy Tommy. So there's like a bunch of lunkheads in this, right? And they're almost nondescript and indistinguishable. Tommy is the one who at the beginning is like hitting on Jamie. He's like, "What's that zipper for?" So his name is Richard Bravo, and he was in the movie Mac and Me. Have you guys seen that movie?
Yes.
With the kid in the wheelchair. It was like the ET ripoff.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay, I was like, what is? Ooh.
Yeah, and he was also in Killzone, which is another David Pryor vehicle.
Yeah. So these are all, big films. Well, bigger than anything I've ever been involved in. So I shouldn't talk shit. But so IMDb score real quick is 4.6.
Hold on. Sled had something on the cast.
I was just gonna say, do you want to run down this other stuff, or you want me to wait till you're done with Killer Workout?
I mean, I just wanted to say really quick, there's no meta score for this, right? Because there's no critical review at all of this movie.
Because people are used to having their art spoon fed to them, so it's probably hard for them.
What's to be critical of?
Yeah. All right, Sled. What did you have?
So from a production standpoint, it looked like a lot of this the spa/gym I think was in Brentwood, LA, which is like northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's various scenes that were in Sun Valley, which is in the San Fernando Valley. If you hear people talk about the valley in LA, that's what they actually mean. Is the San Fernando Valley typically.
Was this filmed in a warehouse district? I mean, that's
I'll talk about that. San Fernando Valley. I mean, the valleys, there's some rough places out there. Some of the more rural shots, there's a lot of mountains around that area. I had a note that it was just very gritty from a production standpoint. Like, I don't know about the copy y'all watched, but at several times, like, it just like it looked like someone left their VHS in the garage too long before they transferred to the digital format.
Did that for me too.
Yeah.
I said literally there's VCR
I thought it was me. I
thought my TV was breaking. I was like, "What the fucking TV breaking?"
I didn't quite. I wasn't processing it. I was like, "Well, do I need to blow in the VCR?"
No, you need to adjust your tracking. You need to adjust the tracking.
Yeah.
The last scene where he takes her out in the woods, like the whole thing. It was like, "Is this?"
The
it
last
keeps getting
15
worse.
minutes looked like it had heated up or something. I was like, "What's
who left the
notes
VHS sleep in the sun?"
David, Ted, they claimed in an interview I read with them on bleedingskull.com to have shot it in 3 weeks. And David claims to have written it in 6 days after a phone call with David Winters.
Looks like he took 7.
So yeah, he choreographed the fights allegedly in the things. He says that this is his first experience choreographing fights. He's a former bodybuilder. I know we've had a couple ladies who were in Playboy, but he was a March 1984 Playgirl centerfold.
What? Jeannie, take notes. Take notes, Chuck Dawson.
And he was married to Ray Hollett from 1990 to 1992, who was Zap from the original American Gladiators.
What?
I remember Zap.
Are you serious?
Teresa van der Voorde. I don't know. It
Yep.
looks like a Dutch name as Jamie. She was Miss San Bernardino in 1982. Very competitive contest in San Bernardino if you've ever been there. Um, Joel Hoffman as weightlifter number 2. Brad. He's the guy who stays with the dying son in Pumpkinhead, 1988.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was also in Slaughterhouse, which is a
Oh,
1987
that's a
horror
good one.
film, which
Yeah. Yep.
it's kind of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre knockoff
Yep.
in certain ways. And he was also
Do
in
you have that reaction to Slaughterhouse, but not Pumpkinhead? What's wrong with you?
Who, me?
and he was
Yeah.
in Slumber Party Massacre 2, which is that's a really
nice.
I always remember that cover from that because it's got the guy with like the guitar screw
Yeah.
drill
Power
thing,
drill on
yeah,
the end of it.
like
Yeah.
because I remember my
Tremendous.
mother rented that for me for a slumber party when I was in probably second or third grade, and we never returned it, so we quit being able to rent movies from that place because they charged you like $1 million if you didn't bring a movie
Right.
back.
$69.99 for the fucking the
So,
VHS.
that's
tape.
all I got for Killer Workout.
That's awesome. That's much better. I had no idea about those. All right, so I'll run through Death Spot pretty quick. So get ready to laugh at me for this guy's name. His name is Michael Fishka? We'll say. I don't know.
Fishaw.
Rashad? Okay, sure. So that's the director. He did his biggest film looks problematic, I have to say. But the first one is My Mom's a Werewolf. But his biggest film is a film called Rice Girl with Pat Morita. And then he was also involved in Rice Girl Goes to Hollywood in 2023 TV show. Yeah. So
Did Rice Girl not
and then-
start in Hollywood? That's
man, I don't know. I got another one here that's James Bardoff. He had, as far as I could see for writing credits, I mean, like a couple little things here and there, but the biggest thing I could find was one episode of What's Happening Now in 1987.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Was Bartov basically wrote a piece of shit? It sat on the shelf because
Yeah.
they were pursuing other
And then
projects.
the other guy came in.
And when that guy with the Mitch Paradise, which is a perfect porno name, pops in, and he basically guts the script. And so the only reason why Bartov even still has his name in there as one of the writers is basically an act of like generosity on Paradise's part, as I understand.
That explains a lot, because I did not know that, and trying to find anything on that guy was kind of just dead end.
Right.
Okay. Oh man, this guy went out of his way to make this hard. Arledge Armiaka, I don't know, is
Armanaki.
I'm sure is the cinematographer. His biggest film seems to be Disco Godfather from 1979. And then you got producers. These were actually kind of interesting. I was surprised by this.
Joel, I'm sorry. Before you move on from the cinematographer, Arledge Armanaki, he did Howling 5, which was something. And now here's where you missed the biggest movie he was involved in. He was the lead camera operator on a little ditty I like to call Microwave Massacre.
I did not see that. So Waleb BLE is one of the producers, and he was involved in film that I think is like slasher royalty, is Henry, Portrait of Serial Killer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then
Michael
Jamie Beardsley was one of the other. I didn't capture all the producers. That was one of the other ones. So he had some interesting credits. So he was a producer on, do you guys remember the weird like Gremlins kind of knockoff called Munchies?
Yeah.
I remember
Remember
Ghoulies.
that,
I remember
vaguely? Like
Ghoulies, but not
there's a
Munchies.
picture of on the cover, one of the munchkies or whatever it's called is looking up the lady's skirt, right? Like, anyways, it's like a little gremlin thing, that's like part Mogwai. He was a producer on that, and he was also the producer on the um what's her name, Maggie Gyllenhaal film Secretary, if you've ever seen that, in 2002, which put
Yeah.
her in a whole new light for me. Positive light, but and then the weirdest and biggest credit he had was he was assistant director on Reservoir Dogs, which I thought was kind of a cool one. All right, so just moving on really quick. There's no gross that I could find on this, so I don't have any idea what kind of money it made, but it did have a $750,000 budget, so you could see it, right? Like, there was definitely some effects and things going on in this. It has a 5.2 IMDb score, no Metascore. Again, right? Like, I didn't see any reviews for it. We could start going through the actors. I'll take care of one of the quick ones, and I'm sure you guys have tons of little ones you want to cover all over the place. But Ken Foree is like grossly underused in this film.
Oh
Like,
man, yeah.
right? Like, it's
Yeah.
really a shame because he's great. For anyone who's not familiar with the film or with his name offhand, one of his biggest credits would be Dawn of the Dead, which we covered in, I think, our first episode.
Oh yeah.
But he also is in Halloween. Is it the Halloween remake?
Yes, the
Is that
Rob
what-
To be
Zombie.
clear,
remake,
he's
yeah.
actually in both Dawn of the Deads. He's in the remake also.
Oh, he is. You're
Yeah.
right. 'Cause he's like
He's the
the
televangelist.
cop in
He's the preacher, yeah.
yeah. He's the cop in the first one. He's the preacher in the second one. You're
But
absolutely
he's absolutely a B horror movie legend. Everyone wants him in their movie, even if it's a bit role. This was
so.
oh, go ahead.
I was surprised by how little he was used.
Yeah. All right, who else you got?
So other ones, we'll just skip through these real quick. Brenda Bake. So she's like the
Brenda
lead.
Baki.
Baki, okay. She was in LA Confidential, which is a pretty big one. Hot Shots Part 2. My favorite one is she is Cordelia in Tales of the Crypt Demon Knight, which I think we're planning on doing at one point. Still looking solid in that, and she was in Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
She was also in Nowhere to Run with Jean-Claude Van Damme, one of the later vehicles, which I believe, Joel, we saw in theaters, shamefully enough.
The one where he's on like the
motorcycle. No, he's on he's in like the bayou. It doesn't matter.
He's got a hell of a mullet going.
Yeah, he was. And she was also in one more. She was in a movie called Trucks, which was essentially the Canadian version of Maximum Overdrive. Both the exact same source material, different movies, similar time frame. We should definitely pair those up in the future.
That is insane. So let's see who else. William Bummerly.
Bummiller.
What's that?
Bummiller.
You're just making these up. So he's a bouncer in Species. He's in Boat Trip, and then like a couple TV shows, Days of Our Lives. He was in 24, so that's kind of a big one. NCIS, which means he's in syndication. He's going to be picking up credits forever. So that's him in a nutshell. Let's see who else. Merritt. Buttrich? I don't know. But,
I thought it was Buttrick. Buttrick or
it could be Buttrick,
but
can be Buttrick. All right. So his most famous credit, as far as I could tell, is actually he was in Star Trek Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock as Jim Kirk's son, David.
Yeah.
But he was in a few other things.
He was in Square Pegs.
He's in Fright Night Part 2.
And Square Pegs.
Yep. Yeah, he was definitely in. What was the one you said, Jeannie?
Square Pegs.
Square Pegs.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in Fright Night Part 2, which I always forget that I get 1 and 2 mixed up. because
This was his last film.
Yeah.
He died from complications of AIDS after this.
He died pretty
Yeah.
young. He was 29.
Yeah.
well, yeah, his role is David, the Jim Kirk.
Lead computer. He's like
What's that?
He's like the lead computer expert in.
Yeah, in Star Trek. Yeah, I mean that was. I'm looking it up just to see when that came out. It's like in the early '80s. It's 1982.
He's a computer expert in this. That's
In
Yes.
Death Spa, dude.
Yes.
Yeah, but David actually saw. Yeah, well, whatever.
I don't know. I never saw any of the Star Trek shit. All right, let's move. Come on, we got to get into the meat
Oh,
here.
I got stuff
No.
for Death Spa.
Oh,
Go for it.
no. Nobody's going to acknowledge the first time Karen Parsons, a.k.a. Hillary, from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, made her film debut.
Oh,
that
that's true.
Yep.
That's
did
who she
not-
is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And Jeannie, do you know how she ended up transitioning from this to Fresh Prince?
No.
So at least the legend goes that there was an NBC executive, probably much like us one night, drunk on the couch watching a shitty movie, saw this on cable and was like, "Hey, I like her," and called to have her brought in for an audition.
How did she die? Which one?
She's alive.
I don't think did she.
What do you mean?
She lived, right?
No, she lived.
Did she
yeah.
survive? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
I mean, yeah. Yes, that's right. Karen Parsons. That's the awesome pull.
That's crazy.
There's also much more obscure than that, but the woman who plays Catherine, who is the deceased wife of
Yeah.
Michael, Sherry Shattuck.
Yeah.
She was in On Deadly Ground, another Seagal vehicle. She had some episodes with Who's the Boss.
Oh, yeah.
And my favorite thing is that she was in the 38 special music video, So Caught Up in You.
Oh, I love that video.
You always liked 38 special. I don't know what's wrong with you.
It's good Southern
Yes.
rock, dude. What do you mean?
Yes.
All right, let's.
I
What else? Sled. Yeah, that's Sled.
Yeah, for the movie stats, there's not a ton
All right.
to it.
All right,
Oh,
Sled. Let's take us home, Sled. Go ahead.
So-
yeah, we got trivia.
This was released in Europe and Asia as Witch Bitch.
That's right.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The strip mall where the opening exterior shot was filmed was demolished in mid 2021. It was at 8100 South Sunset Boulevard, which is in LA.
Okay.
It's basically where Laurel Canyon comes down. It's just down the street from the Laugh Factory and the Directors
Okay.
Guild of America building, which that reminded me.
Oh, okay.
This is a totally random the horror connection is I saw a screening there of Guy Ritchie's The Covenant a couple years ago, which starred
okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal, who he was there. But Jamie Lee Curtis, who's his godmother, was also there. And so she was doing an interview in Halloween, which is coming up. So yeah, that was the only thing that made me think. Now that location right by there is a Crunch Fitness located at the corner of Sunset in roughly that same location. So
Shit.
director, you missed out that he also directed Crack House in 1989, which starred Jim Brown and Richard Roundtree. It's also known as Shaft. And he's directed Delta Heat, which I have no idea, but it stars Anthony Edwards, who's a guy from Revenge of the Nerds. And
There were a lot of things like that, Michael. Did you notice that like a lot of the credits were like these weird MIA fever dreams where people were like Delta Force or Mission whatever.
And Lance Henriksen was also in that, who he was also in
Nice.
Pumpkinhead. And Aliens, which is, I mean, it's not as big as Pumpkinhead, but it's getting close. Rosalind Cash, you mentioned her.
Yeah.
She was in Omega Man as Lisa, which Omega Man is based on I Am Legend. It's Robert Matheson. She was also in Tales from the Hood. It's Dr. Cushing.
Yep.
Sherry Shattuck, who.
Wait. Sled. Sorry, before you pass it, because if you're going to pass on Rosalind Cash, I have a couple more. She was, Jeannie, this might get you. She was Dean Hughes on A Different World. If you remember the dean on campus, she was in Falcon Crest. She was in Knight Rider. She was in Cagney and Lacey. All the classic '80s shows.
Nice.
Sherry Shattuck.
Sorry, go ahead, Sled.
Again, going back, we've always got a Playboy connection. She was on the cover of Playboy in April 1980.
Hey, there you go.
Hank Chaney as Robert. his real name is Henry Edward Garcia. Supposedly, I always love Wikipedia pages like this for 80s actors because I always feel like it's completely full of shit. Like there's no links to any of it. But he supposedly graduated from UCLA Law and worked as a model while in law school. He passed the bar and was working for a firm in Beverly Hills before he began pursuing his acting career during that time, which clearly probably paid a lot more than being a UCLA lawyer, trained lawyer working in Beverly Hills. But Chelsea Field as Darla is currently
Darla.
she's married to Scott Bakula in real life.
Nice.
She's in a ton of great movies. She was in Commando as a Western flight attendant. She's in Masters of the Universe as Tila.
Well, hold on, Sled. When she's the flight attendant who actually says when Arnie says to her, "Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired." Like that famous line. He's saying that to her.
She's in Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man as Virginia Slim. She's in The Last Boy Scout as Sarah Hallenbeck, and she's in The Dark Half, which is based on a Stephen King story, as Annie Pangborn. Joseph
she's
Whip.
Hold on. She's also Tila in Masters of the Universe, the movie that came out in '87.
Yeah. Joseph Whip as Dr. Leto Murray. That's Sergeant.
Oh my God.
That's Sergeant Parker in Nightmare on Elm Street and Sheriff Burke in Scream. Vanessa Bell Calloway as Marcy Hewitt is in Coming to America. That's Princess Amani Izzy, the barking chick.
Oh my
God.
She was in Bebe's Kids voicing Jamaica, and she was in The Cherokee Kid as Abby Hullsupple. I don't know if y'all have ever seen The Cherokee Kid. That's a great HBO movie with Burt Reynolds and Sinbad.
I was going to say, is it Sinbad? Yeah. That's amazing. You did so well.
Sled absolutely bringing like A-game shit.
And then Chad Hayes as Jeffrey, who co-wrote I don't even know if I remember who he was, but he co-wrote the 2005 House of Wax remake, The Reaping, and The Conjuring with his twin brother Carrie. That's what I got for that movie.
I got one.
Co-wrote The Conjuring?
Yeah.
I got one last one, and then we can move to general discussion. I could not believe we went on this long for the cast and crew for these.
There's a lot of people. Like the cast is really long.
For Death Spa, Francis X. McCarthy, who is the Lieutenant Fletcher. He plays the principal in Summer School. Remember that movie with Mark Harmon and Kirstie Alley? Mm-hmm. That was it. That was the last one. So let's go ahead and jump right into general discussion. I know we like to talk about a bunch of different themes and sub-themes, genres, and subgenre, all that kind of stuff. There's not much going on here.
I got one.
But go ahead. Go ahead. Lead off, Joel. What do you got?
Well, I have, maybe I should say this for questions, but it's just something that when I was watching Death Spa jumped out at me because we've seen it in a bunch of movies. Is there an instance of any set of twins ever not being evil? Like they're all
yes. In Friday the 13th Part 6 on the other episode, the experiment twins are just innocent women who get killed.
Right. I swear to God, I was looking this up. There's ginger snaps. It goes on a dead ringer. It's just like there's nothing like twins show up as such a trope of like, oh yeah, you can't be trusting twins.
Harbinger of, you're right. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say this before we get too deep into general discussion and keep moving. Like a really the shortest synopses we could possibly do for each of these movies would help, I think, any listeners. So they're both gym murder mysteries, essentially, right? You can almost look at them as haunted houses, at least in Death Spa. In Killer Workout, there's a woman in an opening scene who gets burned in a tanning salon. You then cut to this gym that's being run and a bunch of murders take place. I guess I won't do the spoiler on that yet, but we could talk about that. In Death Spa, you have a similar setup where you have someone killed right off the bat who's staying late that night. There's it's an advanced gym, at least for the time, where everything is key coded and there's like there's a whole computer system, a whole surveillance room. There's a lot going on. It's a very like high tech gym, and people are dying. They think it's the machine is malfunctioning, it's killing people, but it turns out there's actually a killer behind it. And there's a huge twist with that one as well. But the main idea here is that we are talking about set pieces. It's almost as Jazz, our producer Jazz, is one of his favorite subgenres, sort of what he calls siege horror. I mean, they're stuck in a place together, and people are getting knocked off, and you got to survive. That's really
I disagree only in this sense. They're not stuck. That's what I could not figure out with any of these.
True.
It's like Jaws. People keep like
Everybody
hiding
keeps
the
working
fact-
out.
Everyone
Oh, yeah.
keeps working out.
Yeah, people
In both
quit going to
movies
gyms all the time. People quit going to gyms and keep paying.
without tens
Yeah.
of people dying, right? Like on the property. But
Well,
people are getting ripped. One man gets ripped apart by a piece of gym equipment with other gym goers around them, and then people keep showing up.
well,
This
this was part.
even slows down.
This was part of. Oh, go ahead, Sled.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that was one of the big things I took away from both movies is they're like definitely critiquing like the rise of 80s exercise and fitness culture, right?
Mhm.
Like they're very
Yep.
critical of it in general.
But it falls short. It falls short of satire. They're not satirizing
Right.
it. It's their sort of part of it, and I think that's actually why they got the spaces. One was a converted dance studio, and the other one was a legit gym. Both of which went belly up shortly thereafter, and they had to actually rent them. Both movies had to rent their space at night. You'll notice that there's a little bit and we talked about Killer Workout having that gritty feel, and I think you were talking about the actual film version, but like it is a lot of dark shades and tones, and it has nothing to do with the cinematography because that guy didn't know what he was doing. It was simply they filmed at night all the time. That's the only time they had the gym.
Did they film it on video though? Because that guy, like, he was one of the prior his movie that Sledgehammer, he filmed that on, or he didn't
It was actually filmed
film
on
it. He
video.
videoed it, right? So I don't know if
Oh,
that was
man.
part of it too, also. And that
Yeah,
I think
I
Sledgehammer,
you might be right.
Sledgehammer, I think there's dispute about it, but is allegedly one of the first movies videoed completely instead of film, or horror movie.
That's what
or the first slasher flick that was ever videoed instead of filmed completely.
That's what I found, Michael, at least in what I was reading, is that most people seem to think it was. It looks pretty awful, but it was novel in that sense.
What Jeannie, you deem this, what did you call this? Slasher sweat?
Yeah. Slasher.
Well, there were say it again. Slasher
Sweat.
Slasher sweat. Well, there were several. This is like these are only two in like a big grouping of these that came out in that same time. So it's definitely like you're saying, Sled, like they're taking a look at this mid to late 80s gym culture that was like pervasive. Dance or Die, 1986, Slash Dance in 1989, Hell Spa. I mean, there's a ton of these.
I'm imagining like producer conversations going on because producers, all they care about is making money. So I'm imagining like oh, we're gonna hit the sweet spot of like cheap horror and cheap porn. And I mean a lot of 80s horror is that right there, but it's like we'll put these out.
Sure.
Like
That's right.
What struck me, and I have been a regular gym goer for many years. Like, I think the gym culture that is being portrayed in these movies is like very much like actually getting a workout in is secondary or like even ancillary to like the social aspect. I mean, in Death Spa, there's the middle part. There's a full bar. They're serving sushi at some point, smoothies, anything else.
Yeah.
There's fucking going on left and right. Like no one's here to work out. And I know that it's, this is hyperbolic and this is ostentatious, but like gym culture now, in my experience, you have your AirPods in, you are completely isolated. People are working out next to each other and they have no interaction with each other. That's my experience.
I think the interaction is gone, but I think the same intent is still there a lot of times. I think a lot of look at what people do to work out. Very few people who go to the gym are actually concerned with being fit, like, or getting, or their health. Most of them are going there to look good. And a lot of times, one of the things that's interesting is a lot of times they're going there to look good not even for the people that they like really want to look like. You have a lot of guys like who are like getting jacked up and being like working on being a bodybuilder, and it's like they're heterosexual guys. They like women. Most women don't prefer that appearance even. And
Are you
but
saying that Chuck Dawson didn't get pussy? Because I watched
I
the
don't know
movie.
about, no,
They were falling all
I'm
over
sure
Chuck
he got
Dawson.
plenty, but I'm saying in general, like what people are doing. Like I thought it's interesting that the critique, it's like I think on what's going on in the gym. I think it actually carries forward to the how it has changed, how it operates. People are more aware of it now than they were back then. But I think a lot of it is still the same, where people are going there and they're not really there to get healthy. Like they're going to a spa, but the goal is to look good. And
Well, that was never more prevalent than in that time in the 80s, when the idea of gyms themselves that were not, you either had like a Gold's Gym or some off-brand gym that was like for the people you're describing, right, Sled, which is like guys who went there to go fucking power lift and to sculpt, and like women by and large weren't even in there. But when this sort of a zeitgeist of all these jazzercise and aerobics, like all that stuff came about, that's what this is capturing, right? The bright colors, the leotards, you're there to be seen and to see. And so it has that peak into it. And then like I'm definitely giving too much credit, but I think a lot of it was the idea for these movies that self-image can be ruinous, right? In the pursuit of perfection in like an unattainable beauty standard, that can be like,
that's literally
right.
What Killer Workout
right.
is saying. Yeah, her envy of people looking good is her motivation for killing.
Right. I mean, so there's no doubt that thought process, that's like an insidious and harmful thing, but also like, I want to give credit, but also I feel like they only did that to retrofit the storyline and to sort of, so the twist is, right. The twist is that like in Killer Workout, AKA Aerobicide, which is actually the better title in my
That
view.
is the best. I'm sorry.
I mean, like,
just,
yeah, you should have just had it. I mean, anything could be Killer Workout. That's kind of like like hacky play on words. Aerobicide, that's a portmanteau you can fucking get your arms around.
Yeah.
So like the beginning of Killer Workout, this faceless woman, you can't really see her. They play with the camera angles. She gets a call back from her agent, and she's going to be on the cover of Cosmopolitan. It's a huge break for her, but he said, hey, you need to have a tan. So she runs back out. She goes to get a tan, and she gets trapped in the tanning bed, which, by the way, Jimmy, right? Jimmy from the movie.
Yes.
The real life guy. What's his name? Fucking Jimmy. I gotta look it up.
That's one of the prior.
Fritz
sorry.
Matthews. Jimmy is Fritz Matthews. Okay, that guy was also the stuntman in the movie. Did all his own stunts, and he built that tanning bed by his own hands on set.
That's pretty awesome because it makes the cover, right? Like it's
right.
a drawing of it, but it's pretty great.
So he also actually in one of his stunts cracked his head open and stitched himself up on set because Jimmy's fucking hardcore. Anyways, so you find out that the person who was burned, actually, you cut now to Rhonda's Workout, which is the name of the gym 5 years later, and Rhonda's running it. She has a partner who's a silent partner. We never see or hear of him on screen, but she runs this whole thing. These murders happen. Turns out Rhonda's the one who's been murdering people. Only she is not Rhonda. She is the person, the young lady who was burned, not to death, but horribly disfigured in the tanning booth accident, whose name was Valerie. She changes her name. She hides her identity. She conceals her scars. She wears a wig and sweatshirts most of the time. You don't get to see her body. She's the one who then is taking vengeance on all of these perfect bodies and these women with skimpy outfits and a lot of that sexual pelvic thrusting that goes on. She just is not having it. So how much of that is a commentary? Because they really don't get into beyond that as a plot device, the harm, that this narcissistic behavior really.
I don't think it's much.
Yeah.
I think the only time it ever really is said or even alluded to heavily, right, in terms of motivation, is the officer says it. Like the detective is the one who actually explains her motivation, right? Like we gather it from once we realize who she is, but the only one who says it is him.
She did make a comment, and I was like, well, that kind of came out of nowhere, and that's kind of weird. She makes a comment to Jamie that's like, just teach the class and stop showing off your tits and your tight little ass.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I did hear that too. I didn't put two and two together.
I didn't
Well, so-
either. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but she's her boss, so maybe she doesn't want to do that. But then the whole workout place is tits
whole
and ass.
workout
I'm
is
like,
Tits and
no,
ass,
right.
right?
literally-
Yeah.
Well, no, see, I mean, I had
wrote
it.
down. How does Jamie not pop out a titty? Like that one.
She's got the zipper on. That's what the zipper's for.
I'm serious. I was like that one. I think it was the zipper one. I was like, oh my god, like that is like, how are you leading an aerobics class and not having one of them babies pop out?
I had a question.
Sled's got a hot take.
So
What do you got, Sled?
Merrick Butrick, his character David Avery, that's supposed to be the ghost in Death Spa's twin brother, right? Is that the idea?
Yes, that's correct.
So I had a note that's like you have a twin brother and sister in that one, and then you have like a faux twin sister essentially in the other one.
So
and they're
that's
both
right.
Yep.
and there's like this connection or personality transfer that happens with both based on the plot. And like it's like they have a shared identity. And it's like, is there some commentary there? I mean, I don't know if they're. I can't believe they're
twins listening.
I can't believe they're intending any of this because the movies are so poorly made. But it's like it is an interesting idea of like the flexibility of identity and self. They both get immolated to create like the other one kind of thing, right? Like they both like there's a burning like the one chick burnt. But I mean, it's not an insult to the twins. It's more that what she burned alive in her fucking wheelchair. So it's like you burned away of the original to reveal the reality kind of thing. And that's like what working out is too. Like so I don't know if it's, maybe I'm getting too deep on Death Spa.
No.
And,
no, all of that makes sense. It's very
like.
much, if you've ever read Joseph Conrad's The Secret Sharer, it's very much like that. There is a twin, there is a mirror of you just beneath the surface who reflects again in a mirror, right? And when you're in a mirror, everything is opposite. And so like when that's reflected in the movies, and it certainly can't be intentionally because it's way too deep for that, but they are opposites morally and ethically and how they go about living their lives. But, so that whole theme of like body image and stuff like that is one of the obvious ones. The other thing that I wanted to mention was like the Chuck versus Jimmy fights. Can we talk about those? I would love to talk about the Chuck
I
versus
got a
Jimmy
whole
fights.
note that the killer workout fight choreography. I love it. I actually think it's great. It's very,
The first one's not that good. The second one's amazing.
Yeah, with the fucking rake. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Even the first one though, I thought was okay. But like, I mean, my big comment was like, as a person, so Jesse's in. Jay, you do jiu-jitsu, you said, right? I think once. Or Jay's not even on. Sorry.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but so like. Being into martial arts, watching it, it's a very, I mean, I'm really into boxing. Jesse's really into boxing. That's how Jesse and I met. But
Sled, you're stepping on my shit. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I watched it and if you know martial arts, it's very karate-ish. You could tell it's like Kenpo karate influence, like heavily, like everything that they're doing.
Long
like,
guards.
Yeah. Like, but I thought it was well done. They showed I mean, the guys obviously are not like experienced, like film martial artists, but they were like they performed they worked hard, they showed everything. They did no cut scenes and stuff. It was all like showing what they're doing and stuff. And like I don't know, I actually really liked the choreography. I thought it was very
I'm so glad you said that because I have it better. I have the rematch. I'm gonna start with the beginning and then we'll talk about the rematch. The rematch I have as better than Ali Frazier and somewhere and somewhere up there with like Piper versus Keith David and They Live. But for the first fight, I actually broke it down. I broke it down fucking like fight, like punch by punch here. And then Sled, when I'm done, I want to see how you scored it. Okay. You start off, you got Chuck blocks an overhand right from Jimmy. Okay. Lands his own right hook, which drops Jimmy off the bat. You got a knockdown right off the bat. Okay. Gets up. Chuck parries Jimmy's jab with his front hand, then transitions to a wedge block with the same hand to block the cross. Beautiful defensive work right there. Old, like throwback shit. Chuck comes back with his own cross, which lays Jimmy out across the hood of his car. Knockdown number 2, right? The rope's holding you up. Then he stuffs a double leg shoot attempt by Jimmy. He blasts him with a knee. Jimmy finally lands a fucking punch, one cross, followed by a couple of stiff jabs, snaps Chuck's head back. Jimmy then attempts an absurd spin kick that he misses, which is a stupid move. Chuck wrenches his arm behind his back, slams him into the wall. I had it 10-7 round for Chuck. Sled, what do you think?
I mean, that sounds. I mean, it was basically a KO. I mean, wasn't a stoppage victory for the first fight? I mean,
he basically told him, don't come around here anymore. And Jimmy, who had just pulled up in his fucking sweet muscle car, jumps back in the car and leaves. He didn't even work
sweet
out.
Muscle car. What the fuck muscle is it? Are any of y'all into cars? Was it that it was like a late 70s Mustang or something? I remember they showed the fucking hood ornament on it later, right? Didn't they? But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, that sounds. I mean, definitely, you know. It was very one-sided. That was the interesting thing about the rematch is it went so, or at least when I was watching, it went completely the other way, which is I was like, was Jimmy just playing possum in the first fight, or maybe he just hadn't been challenged adequately in so long that he was out of practice.
He made adjustments. He
turned into like fucking Super Ninja in the fucking rematch.
Why? All right, I'm getting mixed up, but the guy who's the detective, what's his name?
Chuck Dawson, the blonde guy with the guns.
I don't think of him as the detective. He was like the undercover
He was like the
guy,
private
right?
eye.
Oh.
He was private eye.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, he was private eye.
Sorry, you're right.
You're absolutely right. So why was the private eye like, I'm going to murder this man with a rake? Right? Like he wasn't fighting him anymore. He had a rake.
He was
using the stick.
He was getting fucked up. That guy was fucking going after him.
Hey, Joel, seriously, if you're employed and he's a private detective, private eye, he is investigating, the series of murders. The person that he is considering as the murderer jumps out of the bushes at night while he's on site surveilling and attacks him.
And all of a sudden it's like a goddamn karate master.
Like, I don't know.
Me?
No, I'm just saying, are we fighting? Like, this is not a schoolyard fight in 8th grade. He might have feared for his life, and you do what you want to do. I mean, at that point,
I think he tried. I think he started out trying to fight him because he thought he was going to beat his ass again, like he did the first time, and then it was like a whole nother.
It was like, I'm going to stab him in the leg.
I just think it was a whole nother show because the guy was like, I mean, my takeaway was he's getting fucked up in the rematch, and he didn't want to die. Yeah, I mean, he thinks this guy's a killer.
I wanted to, since both of these movies are so into objectifying and subjugating women in so many different ways, unconsciously and subconsciously, I did want to throw it the other way here.
I've got some comments on this too. So
you've got Chuck Dawson, the blonde badass, right, with the guns. You got Jimmy, the tall, moon-faced, brown-haired guy with like pockmarks, and then you got Tom or Tommy, who's got you can just tell them all by different colored tank tops. They all have the same fucking tank top, different colors. Right? Red tank top is Tom, who comes in the beginning and he messes with Jamie's zipper on her cleavage, which is absolutely sad. So I just want to say, how do you rank these gentlemen? Are there any lookers? They all seem like ugly ass lunkheads to me. Am I wrong? I mean, who are you going with?
Yeah, they are lunkheads. And actually, one of my notes says, okay, Tommy and Jimmy look very similar. Like they
do. Can't tell them apart.
I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And multiple times I wrote, Jimmy is a fucking creep.
You know what
I was he's always just like making a face.
Because he wants Rhonda.
You know what I was really thrown off by was that Chuck was David Pryor's brother. Because if you've seen a picture of David Pryor, I thought it was Jimmy. Like I was like writing notes like, this is like, because I was like, Joel had trouble figuring out who the fuck these people were because the information on it's so bad. Like Chuck his brother doesn't look anything like him.
It looks like they look like Danny DeVito and Schwarzenegger.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah,
that's my brother. Oh, really? Because Chuck got all the fucking DNA. Wait, Jeannie, before we move, Jeannie. So you got to be a Chuck guy by default, then?
Yeah, yeah, I got to be Chuck. Unlike in Death Spa, we did have Freddie there, and I appreciated having Schlubby Freddie to really offset all the hard bodies working out.
The British guy,
the Australian dude. He
was comic relief.
I don't know. They had that one guy at the very end of Killer Workout, like where they pull out, and it's just like a big guy on the fuck. Was he on a rowing machine or he's on a bike? Yeah.
The bicycle, yeah.
Again, one quick thing. As we're like, you're in that part of the movie, like the cops are taking bodies out on stretchers, and people are still doing aerobics.
Wait,
Like I just
Joel, I do believe there was a quote about running out of body bags, so I don't know how many more bodies they could have sustained. So
The
really,
paramedics-
maybe
yeah.
people.
Nope.
Dude, do you?
People are dying left and right, and they're
Right.
still doing the aerobics.
like, no, I gotta go get my dance on.
But I sorry. I was gonna say I did have a comment on like bringing up the rating the guys and like the body comparisons to modern actors. I think was something interesting, particularly looking at Killer Workout. Like like Jimmy in Killer Workout, I think is supposed to be like, oh, like that's a big burly,
That's a
like
stud.
that's a guy who works out, and like
He's really ripped.
in
right?
modern cinema that would be like 100% dad bod at best. And I mean, it reminds me of the memes you see on like Instagram where it's like, oh, do you like a this guy or a dad bod? And they're like, oh, I like like these young women are like, oh, I like a dad bod. Then the dad bod is like some dude with like, he doesn't have a 6-pack, but he has like a standing 4-pack. Like he's like, this is like, this is like someone in really good shape, and like, oh, this guy's not a professional model, so that's a dad bod. So that was like one of the interesting comparisons I thought between like just looking at that from then to now, like on what we like the expectations on how people look. Although there's the same thing going on with the women, like the female bodies in it are very different, I think, than the female bodies that you see in movies now also. Although I feel like it's reversing to some extent. It's starting to flip back around, I guess I would say. And then there was one other thing I was thinking about that on. Sorry, I can't remember. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I wanted to mention, because we don't talk about this a lot, but Rhonda's body count is pretty respectable. She like first of all, I counted. She logs 13 kills in this movie. Jimmy kills one person, so there's 14 total. She kills 13 fucking people in this movie. I mean, I'm just telling you that's up there with Jason Voorhees. That's up there with Freddy Krueger. That's up there with Michael Myers. Do we need to have her in the conversation as one of the goats? I mean, and by the way, she's not using chainsaws and machetes. You know what she's using?
A safety pin.
A safety pin.
So that raises a question:
Why is she using the safety pin?
Is Killer? Well, I have a note on that too, but is Killer?
Let those slide. I want to hear it.
Oh, on the safety pin. Well, I said my note was I actually wrote down. So is it a safety pin or like a sewing needle? Because I saw some notes where people called it a sewing needle, but it's like
that was a red herring, and there were so many red herrings in this movie. Because he comes up with the sewing needle, but that was not the murder.
And I thought it might be too deep, but is that some kind of? I mean, but it's a really weird choice. It seems like it must be an intentional choice. So it's a
very deliberate choice.
Is that some kind of metaphor for like, oh, like the good women should be back doing something that's related to more like sewing or safety pins or something like that, rather than being in the gym? That was actually the note I had.
The domesticated
like sewing, traditional is what they should be doing, and the women are like they're trying to get back to that, and they're fucking killers. Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes sense. No, it makes sense, right? They're making a commentary on domestication but like in gender roles, but it just can't possibly follow, right? Like how would they? Are these movies great?
Figure it out.
They can't be great. Jeannie, did you have something else? You were about to say something.
I can't even remember now.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, just that, talking about the body count from Rhonda, like that is, I guess that's why the detective felt he really needed to cross that line at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the idea of red herrings, which I just mentioned, there were so many like feints and hints that were trying to take us in different directions so that they could keep up the facade of the murder mysteries and then have the big reveal at the end for both movies. But it really was I found it super disorienting, and I actually had a difficult time keeping track of what would otherwise be pretty fucking easy shit to keep track of. Like, it's almost like the expository scenes, if there were ever any filmed in either movie, were like cut and the audience missed critical information. Like, how does
I definitely commented, okay, did I miss something? Like, how did the detective know about Diane Matthews?
That's right.
Did I miss that? Like, all of a sudden he's at her house. Like, I don't know.
Well, the body popped up, Marcia's body, or Marcia, as Joel would say, popped up in the locker, and it was in Diane's locker. And they found the sewing needle, which is different from the pin. They found the sewing needle in her locker. So what happened was Rhonda, nay Valerie, planted a sewing needle as a fake murder weapon and stuffed the body and the needle into Diane's locker to throw him off the trail.
Why?
So maybe
Why was that an arm? Like, we talked about this.
That's
Jesse.
a good question. Yeah. Why was there a fake arm, a hacky prop popping out of a locker to scare people?
Oh, that's weird
And
because
that was a head fake too.
I totally thought it was a CPR body. I don't know why. My head immediately went like, oh, it's a CPR body.
I just think it was too deep for all of us to understand.
It's just
I think it's the arm of exercise reaching out. Like, you cannot be far. You can't actually ever leave pelvic thrusts and aerobics. It's always going to be there.
So there were other stuff I wanted to talk about, unless anyone else has anything. Just before we get too much into all that, I mean, we've already gotten into how hacky and awful they are in the most enjoyable ways. The tracking shot, the opening tracking shot for Death Spa, which was on a what do you call it? On a crane.
Yeah.
On Sunset Boulevard, like you said, Sled, comes down, we get off, we walk right. It's all a continuous shot. It's like their ode to Scorsese and Goodfellas, like
that was the entire fucking budget, probably.
Dude, right there on the opening scene.
They're just trying to make themselves seem something like they're not. Look, you're just as cheesecake as Killer Workout Death Spa, all right? Even with your fancy fucking shots, which I called straight from the beginning that Star Body Health Spa was going to turn into Death Spa with the lights. I also commented,
is Star Body supposed to mean something?
Their sign?
I had a question on that.
Yes, it's supposed to. It's
the Star Body to the death thing. Like, it's obviously
Star
supposed
Body
to be
Health
like
Spa.
Yeah. And they're
but
both
Star
filmed
Body
on,
is
like,
Hollywood.
I was just gonna say they're both filmed like northwest, west side of LA, which is like all like the locations that they're done. And I actually going back to the bodies, the one thing I remembered was like the body comparisons for like then to now. It was also they're interesting delineators of like 70s to 80s bodies and like the way people look. Like I felt like Killer Workout, there was a lot more actors and actresses in it that looked normal, or like they were like, you have like back in the 70s you had gritty films where people looked like regular people and were good actors, whereas when you got into the 80s and it increasingly got to, it's like everyone looks like a fucking movie star, to where like you're now where it's like even like, oh, you're not a leading person, like you're a fucking character actor, and it's like the most attractive person you've ever seen, they just happen to like, oh, they're not quite at the level to be this person.
part of that what you're getting to, and you're right, part of that is that Death Spa, as a contrast, Killer Workout had more of what you're talking about, sort of a working man look for everyone. Death Spa employed porn stars and strippers for the shower scenes and things like that. So the bodies there didn't look like a typical presentation of a mid-80s body would look like on women, even in exploitation films.
Although I did have one idea on Killer Workout where particularly when I was watching that final workout, pelvic thrust fucking scene. And I was thinking, I was like, like back then they didn't have social media. So now, like, if you're on Instagram, you're inundated with like people. I don't know. I mean, Jeannie, maybe on your side, or like, do women get inundated with like guys doing like work? I mean, I get inundated with like men who are in really good shape, but I get even more inundated with just like, and I don't like anything on Instagram. So I get inundated with like chicks working out who have like ridiculous bodies compared, like they're all plastic. They've all, I mean, not all of them, but they're all like, it's so over the top. This has to be your job to even be this person. Yeah. And it's so, what the fuck, where was I going? Sorry. I lost track of what I was thinking of.
Artificial?
Yeah, but it's like it's such a the women in it. I'm imagining like back then they didn't have social media, so I'm watching all these women doing the scene, and they all have like serious faces, and they're like acting like they're really working out, but they're literally like sitting there like so like, and so it's like I'm imagining all the people now who are doing like open or OnlyFans, that's them in the fucking 80s. That's those
Yeah.
same group of people doing that stuff in that they're like, that's the same group of people who are like, this is what's going to get me famous. I'm going to do this scene. And I was just like, it's like, it's hilarious, but it's also like really sad. Like, because you're
Yeah.
watching this, like, I guarantee you all these people are here. Like, this is like, you can see it's like, I'm going to keep a straight face. I'm going to do this. I'm getting paid. This is going to be my breakout role. This will get
Yeah.
me into a real film where I'm a real actress.
Yes.
And it's like, it's so fucking, I don't know. It's just wild. Like, but it's like, it's really a mirror into like, people act like, oh, OnlyFans, like this is like, and people doing like that kind of Instagram, whatever, all the social media stuff. That's just technology reflecting something that's always been there, or at least been there since like that long ago.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking when we were talking about how, working out to like look good. And I'm thinking, that was where people made their connections, because they weren't connecting online. They were connecting
social media. Yeah.
And so you did have like when aerobics came on the scene and aerobics classes, it really did turn into a huge social component of it. You hardly see them sweating, right? Or they might just like tap, right? There's always like the towel tap on like the chest that has like minimum sweat. And I'm like, okay, none of you guys really work out.
And you hear them talking throughout both movies.
Yeah.
Well, what are we doing after this? They're all take showers and we'll meet you for drinks or wherever they're going after this.
Yeah.
Or even
it's
in
a social third place.
Exactly.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I did want to move to talk about like the actual plot for Death Spa, so that we can riff on that a little bit. So, and as much as
so many notes,
right, there's a lot of questions about this. You know what? Let me give a brief synopsis of that. And then, so like what happens is in Death Spa, the guy, Michael, who runs the place, his wife, died by suicide. She was pregnant, gave birth, and during the birth, the baby died, and she was paralyzed from the waist down or otherwise in a wheelchair from that. And then she killed herself via self-immolation because she was so unhappy. It turns out, all of the stuff going wrong and all of the people being killed, they think initially it's a malfunction in the computer system that runs the whole gym. Catherine, the wife who has passed away, who's killed herself, her twin brother, David, is running the computer system there. He knows how to do that stuff. And what turns out is her ghost has actually possessed the system, the computer system there. And she also occasionally inhabits her twin brother David's body. And by that, I mean, sometimes it's David who is, I guess, for lack of a better term, possessed with her spirit. But also sometimes when she possesses him, the ghost takes her physical form. So you see her physically, her body, she fucking strolls around the gym, the dead wife.
My favorite line in the movie is when the guy is asked to guard the computer room, and she walks up as the ghost, but it's the dude.
Right.
And first of all, if people are dying left and right, and you ask me to guard the computer room for my minimum wage job, I quit over the phone. Right? I don't even.
Not while y'all are having a Mardi Gras party either.
That's
I'm
right.
not sitting in a creepy computer room.
But like, and then she walks in and he says, "I wrote it down," or he goes like, "You got to go," blah blah blah, and then he goes, "Quote, maybe," as she takes off her clothes, "Maybe you could stay for a little while." Nice arms.
Yeah.
Nice arms.
He doesn't have much game, but I was going to say also there's this subplot that's brought on late, which is another confusing thing, which is that Michael, the owner's lawyer, Tom, and his girlfriend, who is like the director of operations there, Priscilla, at the gym, they're together and they're also trying to screw Michael out of the gym by like fucking with the air conditioning system there and hoping that the enrollment bottoms out and so that they can buy it out from under him. So
Right.
there's a lot of different stuff going on, a ton of red herrings on who does what. It's a very confusing movie, but all of it is hilarious. And one of the things I wanted to start with was, I guess we're into this sort of sleepaway camp thing again, where the male character at the end turns out to be dressing and acting like a female. In this case, actually, literally, I mean, he's shaving his legs, he's putting on lipstick, and
Is
there's
he?
that.
Did I miss that part?
Yeah. So they go.
Yeah.
The camera work is really
Is
weird.
that
You're talking about Death
panning?
Spa, right?
Death Spa, yeah.
Is that weird part where they're panning and
So it seems like they're having he's having sex with his twin ghost dead sister.
Yes, I was trying to figure out who was doing that.
Okay, so it was Catherine, the dead wife,
Uh-huh.
and David in that room, in David's room. And we don't actually get to see them. We hear it and they pan around the room, which is sort of disheveled and there's a lot of shit going on, right? It sounds like they're having sex and she's feeling good. What I presume from what I've studied this fucking movie is happening is he's saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to hurt. People are getting hurt is what he's saying. She's inhabiting his physical form and that is somehow painful for him, but also invigorating to her. And she is able to do that if he succumbs to that, which is why later he's rolling around on the floor. He's literally changing between David and Catherine, and Michael is yelling at him while he's writhing on the floor. Fighter, David, like fight it, like like if he can stop her from like jumping into his body. So a little bit like Sleepaway Camp, but not too much. But there's like some forced gender change stuff going on.
I was going to say, with the actor that they had playing the brother, do you think that was intentional at all?
Merrick Buttrick.
Yeah, I mean, because he was
yes,
he was gay and he was he was actually, when you read about him, it's kind of sad. Like he was like a guy who was like definitely like it seemed like, at least from what I read, was on his way to becoming like a bigger actor than he became, like a serious actor. Like he had
the Star Trek roles were big.
Yeah, he had gotten and he had gotten some acclaim like for his acting talent, but that was like and that was kind of a thing. And so I don't know, it felt to me like it was intentional to put him into that role as the brother to the sister to some extent. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think that, because we're think about the time period we're talking about too. And I just don't think they would be that intentional, because then I don't know how out he was in the industry, right? Because we're still talking about a time period where those actors.
I think he had played like a character on a show where he was not openly out, but it was like everyone assumed he was out. Like
maybe I'm wrong.
Well, there was that. I'm with you. There was that, but there was also, he was actually. You're both right, Jeannie. That was not the typical thing at that time, to be open and out. Yeah, and because that would submarine your career as in Hollywood generally. But Sled, you're right. He played that role, and there was another movie where he plays like a very defined, muscular gay man who I want to say is a sex worker, but I'm not sure. But it was very much in that vein where it's sort of known, it's the open secret that like this is a gay guy playing a gay guy in a movie, and so that was surely part of this. I mean, look, and this is not the only time, because in the movie, in Death Spot, in other spots, there's a lot of that commentary about homosexuality. So Darla is trying to hook up with the guy. Remember the guy who gets his ribs popped out? Joel mentioned that earlier. One of the first deaths. Yeah. Okay. So he says to her, she comes up to him and she says something like, "Show me how much can you lift," or whatever. And he says something, and then he ends it with, quote, "Besides, I'm beta and you're VHS." So they're on two different wavelengths. You take that for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I
interpreted it that way too.
I mean, I totally agree. Like from the overall Hollywood perspective, like they definitely would not push that. I think because it was such a fringe, like, I mean, these are both shit films, right? Like no one's looking at them. So I think maybe they were a little more adventurous on that part. I think my suspicion is that he at least himself maybe was doing that because his career, at least from what I looked at, like it definitely struck me as a thing where it's like a guy looking for roles to normalize not being cisgender or like straight. Like he was
Right.
he wasn't trying to be like, because I mean back then, like if you weren't camp, you weren't gay, right? Like if you weren't like
Yep.
like over the
You had to be
top, like hamming
yeah.
it up, then you weren't gay. And so like I had a little bit of a feeling that maybe like that was something that he was looking for in his role selection.
That makes sense.
And the worst part about that, and you're right, Michael, is that guy had presence. I mean, I'd never saw any of the Star Trek stuff, so I can't comment on that. But this is my first time seeing him
He's
in
good.
anything, and like he definitely is someone who can act, right, and who's giving you some. I don't know. He's a little bit weird. Like his presence is weird, but it's like captivating in a way. So like, yeah. To throw it away or to stereotype based on that kind of sucks. But let's go ahead and move on then from the general discussion, unless anyone else has any pressing points they want to address. We are in favorite kill or favorite scene.
Can I have one? Can I do one thing back in general discussion?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Or actually two. So, or
yeah.
Thought it was curious.
Or three. How many are you gonna fucking
just
do?
Two. So I thought it was curious that there's plots surrounding sabotaging gyms as a business. Like in both of them. It's like, is this a thing? Like, is this sabotage gyms?
That actually, before you move on to your other 7 points or whatever you ended up at counting, the one that made me think of something I wrote down, which is like, why is there a command center to run the gym?
Yo,
like,
Jets
like a command center.
It is the biggest fucking gym. The Starbody Health Spa is the biggest. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool. There's a basement for some reason. There's a command
system that runs the weights, like that actually gauges how much weight is on the machines. Right?
Yeah,
like that's
that was
how
like
the dude's arms get ripped.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should save these for the questions at the end, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, if we did, everything I would have would be in that section, right? Like everything I have is one.
Let's move a little bit.
Let's roll. We'll get there, and then we can do it at the end.
Yeah, for sure. We have tidbits and trivia, and we have questions. I think all of that will fall under either of those segments. So for favorite killer, favorite scene, I'm going to run through mine really quickly, and then Sled, Joel, and then Jeannie. Killer workout, the gym goer, and I can't remember because he doesn't even have a name. He's a bearded blonde guy. He gets the pin to the forehead. If you remember that one, I like that one for some reason. It was like one of the few times you actually get to see what's happening. And then the woman, so there's two women and a guy who end up doing the graffiti and Joel, you referenced that they spray paint the aerobicide and death spa on the woman who's the last one left. She runs to the car.
That was Debbie.
Oh, is that Debbie?
Yes.
That was Debbie? Oh, I did not catch that.
R.I.P. Debbie. Damn it. Loved her.
Yeah, that was totally Debbie because I was confused. I thought they were teenagers. And then when she got into the car, I was like, wait a second.
That's dude, Debbie.
She had the best 80s hair of anyone in the show.
Debbie was stacked.
I just like the way that people looked in Killer Workout. To be honest,
they were real. Like Sled was saying, they were just real people.
They're hot as fuck.
Debbie,
I mean, I don't
know. Debbie gets in the car and so they stab through her convertible roof. So she gets stabbed through the roof, but there was like 30 attempts to stab, and she's bobbing and weaving like fucking Joe Frazier in the car. It's like 24 attempts before she actually gets hit, and I love her preternatural instincts as I take it.
Yes, and I just want to be like, lean your seat back.
Lean down. Lean down.
Seat back.
Lay down in the other seat. Anything other than what you did.
My death spa my favorite kill was the chick who gets melted in the basement at the end. She was Hillary's girl. They were trying to pull off a threesome with Michael. Hillary.
That was
Hillary from. Yeah, and she gets lured down to the basement. She gets melted. That's pretty awesome. My favorite scene from Death Spa, which is not a kill, was the like sensual asparagus eating date night between Michael and
That weirded me out.
And,
I
like-
was
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Little
By the way-
asparagus dick in her fucking mouth.
Well, you're right. Well, if
Yes.
if you're going to be that phallic, that overtly phallic with the metaphor, then it cannot be a limp, overcooked piece of asparagus. which is
Maybe
what
it often
was.
is. Maybe that was commentary on
Michael,
the worker.
It's people put all over the place, right? Like, come on.
Jesus Christ! And the
I
music, the whole
absolutely
thing.
put that on there. I was like, what
Asparagus
the fuck?
dick.
I
Are you gonna make that a hashtag on Instagram?
It's
Yes.
Asparagus dick.
Asparagus dick.
Hashtag
on
asparagus.
social
Could
media.
there be
All
an
right, I can't even.
underscore between asparagus and dick? Will that get more
I can't
views
re-
or less?
I can't.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember who I even assigned next, but go in the order. I'm done with mine.
I don't have any idea. I'll go.
All right, go
Just
ahead,
to
Joel.
get that. So I've already said my favorite kill for Death Spot is the guy who gets his arms ripped off in the machine. I thought that was awesome. It actually looked like the dude's ribs ripped out of his torso, which I thought was pretty well done. They also had several good ones where the guy's hand blew off and then he gets slammed in.
Oh, Dr.
that
That's
was
Lido
pretty
Moore.
fucked up.
you're preempting
I was
me,
like-
but yeah.
Because they're all kind of a tie for me with Death Spot. It's that one, and then the other one I really liked was the top, what I titled Top Eel, where it's like the sushi and like the cop is in the freezer and he gets killed by
Which was
a
that?
reanimated eel.
I mean, I should know.
that-
I guess if we're asking somebody, right? I'm supposed to be expert on that
Right,
stuff.
you're
but what
you're
the-
the
that?
guy. Yeah,
What I don't know. I mean,
that's Lieutenant Fletcher, by the way, Joel, and you'll address him as such.
Top Eel. But yeah, so I
This-
loved all of those. Those cracked me up. And then for Killer Workout, I mean, I honestly thought the best scene is the bonkers fight scene between the two dudes
Yeah,
with the rake and the whole thing. I thought that was actually legitimately a good fight scene. I really enjoyed it. It was nuts, but I really liked it. All right, who's next?
Jeannie, what do you got?
Oh,
Yeah, some of those scenes were my favorite too, and I believe for Killer Workout, I was like lots of bloodless fighting and pelvic thrust. I definitely the car one with Debbie, like yeah, that one just got me. Like there was also no blood in Killer Workout.
Yeah,
Besides,
yeah.
That was kind of
people getting
weird.
killed. Like all
It's
the
budget.
fight, nobody
That's
was
budget
bloody.
stuff.
Nobody was
Yeah.
bloody in all the
Yeah.
fights.
That's interesting.
And I'm gonna go with the chick in the basement too, Brooke
Yeah.
in Death Spa, and I got something else to say about that, about the ending scene as well. But if we get there, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get there in tidbits and trivia.
Yeah.
Slide, what do you got?
so for Death Spa, my favorite death was Dr. Moray.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if like is that supposed to be a callback to an eel? You're talking about the fish death. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on there. Moray,
I saw it. I thought it was eel.
but well, moray is a type of eel. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know.
Gotcha.
That's maybe too deep for us to figure
Sled
out.
finding threads in
Too deep for
here.
me. Too deep for me.
That wasn't how he died. That was how the other guy died. But
Yeah,
Right,
I-
Lieutenant Fletcher.
but
Yes.
the Dr. Moray was my favorite death. I like how he comes down and he's like, and one of the notes was like Zelda Rubinstein of the fucking Death Spa. Like he's the fucking witch hunter, like
Yeah.
supernatural guy for this movie.
Sled, do you want to talk about him for a minute? That guy chewed up some fucking scenery, man. The way he smoked a cigarette was like entrancing for some reason to me.
Yeah, I mean he's probably fucking high on like crack when he's
No, back then it was like what do you call him? Well, it was like what was the drug of choice?
Yeah,
back
they may
then?
not have invented crack yet.
Cocaine.
No, yeah, but coke. But I guess it was the 80s. I was thinking more like the pills. What is it? Not amphetamines.
Amphetamines?
Yeah, but what do they call them? Quaaludes. It's like Quaaludes.
Quaaludes,
It's like
yeah.
fucking Quaaludes.
But like my favorite part about it is how he like comes down there and he sees the chick or
yeah,
the sister, the ghost, and like he throws him like a fucking 100 feet up in the sky and like
Yeah.
smash him in the
Yeah.
ceiling, and then he hits the ground and motherfucker gets up. He's like gets up, like just walks it off, gets up and pulls out a fucking gun, and then but like it was just like the entertaining part of me about it was that like he didn't die from the initial smashing. He's like still ready to fight after that. So that was like, I don't know, it's fucking so ridiculous. And then yeah, that was the most blood in that movie, I think, is that she blows up his hand and the gun, and they like do a whole scene where it's like
that was a good
like
bit of
whatever.
I don't know, because there's one more in Death Spa, Priscilla, who is the girlfriend then / ex-girlfriend of the lawyer Tom, after she's like, they fold really quickly when Michael interrogates him on like, were you trying to fuck my gym up? Were you the ones behind the initial, she folds very quickly, but at the end, she's in front of the mirror. She gets absolutely eviscerated by like the mirror exploding into her. It looks like she looks like Terminator 2, like melting in lava. It's really good.
So in that one, hold on, is that where she gets clubbed, and then when she wakes up, she gets the mirror face? Is that what happens there?
Yeah.
Because isn't she like?
Yeah, she
like,
gets knocked out. Yeah.
Who's the guy in the skeleton?
That's Tom. That's the lawyer Tom, the guy who's trying to screw.
Her.
He betrayed her and he betrayed Michael. They were trying to rip him off for the gym.
I have a note here that skeleton, that's how I wrote him down, was plays hide and seek like my 6-year-old. Right? Like he was hiding behind a chair and you could like fully see him. It's the craziest thing ever.
All right, let's move. Sorry. Go ahead, Sled.
So I have a separate favorite scene for Death Spa, which is where they're in the pool. It's Michael and what's his fucking name? Guy from Dawn of the Dead.
Marvin. It
reminded me so much of Rocky 3. Is what, like, a lot of their interactions reminded me a lot of Rocky 3, like Carl Weathers and Rocky, or so Apollo Creed and Rocky, like they've got the swimming scene, they've got the other scene later where they like
playing football together,
high five. So I really don't know, the scenes cracked, and it may have been intentional because Rocky 3 came out before this, so and Lethal Weapon came after, so they weren't mimicking that, but they may have been mimicking Rocky 3. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, maybe there was a little sui generis. Maybe they came up with it and Lethal Weapon ripped them off. The
swimming definitely reminded me of Rocky 3, though, and I actually did have a note that there were several crotch shots on Marvin that I thought were questionable that maybe have gone along.
Let me tell you something. I have a pet theory, which I don't know where else.
Which they weren't even impressing crotch. They weren't like, holy shit, this guy's hanging. It was just like, it's the one black male actor, and they're doing a lot of like prolonged crotch shots near other guys' heads.
Like, let me say in the opening scene where Laura, right, Michael's girlfriend,
when he walks up on her, that's like the first one. Like,
okay, so you see the crotch shot, and then when he like says goodbye to her, she's gonna go get cleaned up and shower and do the sauna where she gets maimed. He fucking kisses her on the lips. Like they kiss on the they kiss on the mouth.
Okay, yes, I was confused by that.
Okay. I didn't know if I was the only one. I was like, how familiar are we? Look, my wife has lots of friends. We kiss on the cheek. I'm not sure that's cool, especially at night by yourselves in the studio when she's all sweaty.
It's okay if it's just
maybe
the
Marvin
tip.
was. With Marvin's team, that's
if it's through the sheet, it doesn't count.
All right, let's move on to best lines and quotes.
I didn't do my killer workout ones.
So go ahead, Sled.
Killer workout, echoing Joel, fight scenes. I thought the big one with Chuck and Jimmy with the rake. That's a fucking
the rematch or the initial fight? Which one?
No, the big one.
The rematch. The
big one with the rake.
Okay.
Like in the pool. Like it's so
rake is wild.
And it's so dragged out. Like it's a long ass fight scene, and it's like, dude, we're moving here. Now we're doing this. We got like all these sequences where it's like slamming you in the wall. Do it this, and he hits him in the fucking leg with the rake, and he's like, and then he goes Terminator, he's like pulls the fucking rake out of his leg, like it's great. So other favorite scenes.
Wait, Sled, have you ever seen a fight scene like in a movie where they dig in and throw 6 consecutive body shots?
They're doing the
ripping.
You shining
like the first guy
head down like a
threw him fast.
And like the worst arm punches, like pile of shit.
He's shoe shining. Yeah, he's trying to get points for the round.
So I got that. I got Rhonda with her burned head wig turn and then her burned titties reveal. I really
the
like
melted
those.
titties.
I thought
The
those.
melted titties.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
like-
want to see this?
You want to see this? By
Ah!
the way,
That was so nuts.
and by the way, she looks a little bit like Kevin Spacey in Pay It Forward there, which I told Joel earlier. Like she looks a little
I made me
melty,
throw up in my mouth.
a little Freddy Krueger, but you know, she still looked hot.
It really
I thought
bothered
he
you,
was
Joel? I
definitely
thought
a
it was
mix of-
hilarious.
Jennifer
Wait,
Grey.
No, I was talking about when he said it looked like Kevin Spacey
Oh.
Pay It Forward.
What did you say, Jeannie?
I was getting, I thought definitely like looking like pre-nose job Jennifer Grey and Gina Gershon. Fun.
Gina
She was
Gershon.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
she was cute.
that's why I was like, I think Killer Workout. I just like the way the people looked.
No,
More
so
that one, like,
I
I thought Jamie was super
I agree.
cute. I
disagreed
thought,
on that. I was agreeing on that too. I thought the people in
Yeah.
Killer Workout looked.
Yeah.
That was like one of my things. Like the people
A
in
lot
Killer
better,
looked like real people. Like
Yeah.
they had, like everyone had character. Like they were
just
like
real
real
attractive people
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Like,
Guys, I don't know why I just thought of this, but because you were talking about women, and I'm a Debbie fan to the core, right? She was the hottest of all of them
yeah.
for me. But she's in the backyard trying to seduce Chuck Dawson. She gets up to go get into something more comfortable, and Chuck Dawson in the backyard in 1987 picks up a corded telephone to make a
Yes!
call for the silent partner. That's not plugged in anywhere. What is he doing?
Maybe she dragged it
Thought
out.
that myself.
I had a note actually where she accused him of being gay during that scene, didn't she?
She did. She said like, "What do you want to do? You want to call him?"
Yeah, you
Well, of
wanna-
course
what-
it's not her fault because he's like, "Tell me about this guy," and she's like, "Well, he's really weird." Talking about Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
She's like, "Well,
That was a
he's really."
commentary on working out. I thought all of it was like kind of a commentary on like being really into like working out and stuff for guys at least. It's like there's some thread of homoeroticism running through all the main, like the guys running the gym at the other place, Jimmy and fucking like they're swimming together.
Yeah.
They got their bros and it's like they're doing, I don't know. I mean, not as a negative thing. It's like maybe you guys should own up to it. And also, what are you working out for? Again, getting back to the idea of like, you're trying to look good for the ladies, or you're trying to look, you're trying to be the gigantic jacked guy. Like, is that for the women or is that for the, like, that's for guys, right? Like that's to be like impressing guys.
I've spent I don't know how many years trying to get trapezius muscles, right? Which we all know what those are by your neck.
Yeah.
And my wife is like, I find those disgusting. Stop doing that. And I won't stop doing it because it's about me, you see. All right, let's move on.
One last.
God damn it, Sled! Jesus fucking Christ!
One last.
Okay. All right. Oh, Jazz. Oh, hold on. Stop the show. Go ahead, Jazz. No traps.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I mean, they are super genetic. It depends on how wide your shoulders and your scalp.
No, my neck is too long. They used to call me Merton Hanks in high school.
It doesn't even matter on your. I have no neck. I will never have like traps. It all depends on your muscle attachments. If you want to have those big traps. I have
extra neck.
My last scene that I liked was the woods at the end when the
God, that was terrible.
It's a fucking great
Lieutenant Morgan.
I mean,
that lieutenant killed me.
I liked it because first of all, him and Jimmy, I'm pretty sure those were like actual professional stuntmen. I don't think they were actors.
Jimmy was a stuntman.
I don't buy so-and-so's brother, Musclehead, whatever his fucking name. I don't think he came up with the fight scenes. I don't think Ted came up with that. I think Jimmy, the character who played him, probably came up with most of that stuff. Like, stuntmen are really cool guys. Like, I mean, it's like that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, it's all
that
these
guys. Seem like a badass.
You can look at his face. You're like, you looked at this guy and it's like, oh, he's not like a fucking muscle jerk, but he would beat the dog shit out of fucking
he
would dog walk him all around the fucking whole set if it came up. So I liked that scene, but also the lieutenant, I felt like he had like big scar on his cheek. Like he was a very like, okay, this like guy's been through some shit, but it was just, the woods were really pretty. So I like that scene.
All right, I got to move on. I got to get to the quote.
You'll find, Jeannie, that is a theme of Michael.
Well, he's a certified arborist.
Okay, I get that now.
All right. So for Killer Workout, for the best quotes, best lines, you got Lieutenant Morgan, your guy who we just discussed with the scar, wearing his members only jacket. He says he's trying to get some report on the lab, and he's just on his talking to dispatch.
Yep.
He's always leaning over his car from the outside, right? And he's just like, just get it over to the lab in 30 minutes and tell that college boy I'm going to do an autopsy on his face. You got that?
But wait,
I wrote down college boy question.
but before he says that,
Yeah.
they ask him, and he's like, "Don't worry about where I am." Like,
Right.
you're a cop. They should.
Yeah, I need to worry about where you
They
are.
need to know where you are.
Well, Joel, it's funny because that insult, that pejorative college boy,
Yeah.
is no longer used. It is a relic of the 80s when it was frowned upon because not everyone went to college. Now that is the
Back
default.
in the day, now
Right.
it is considered, more of a prerequisite.
So when in Death Spa, when Lieutenant Fletcher and Sergeant Stone, right, Rosalind and whatever his name is, they're like the duo of like 80s cops trying to investigate this. They find out that Michael's wife killed herself via immolation, right? She burns to death. What does Fletcher say in the car as they're driving off to that? Quote,
Oh, yeah.
I gotta tell my wife to start smoking in bed. End quote.
It's very take my wife, please.
He also says at another point, Lieutenant Fletcher walking into the Star Body Health Spa, he looks around during the Mardi Gras party night, and he takes one look at like the first two women there, in thongs and like whatever, and he's like, "Place looks lousy, but good looking bimbos." As he like scarfs down a sandwich or whatever
Eating
he's
guy.
eating.
That's one of the memes or tropes I have written down. Is
Yeah, and
eating
he
guy.
He does get eaten by an eel later.
He did. Yes, that's true. All right, guys, chime in. All the quotes you got.
I also they said Jamie, after the first killing, she was telling the detective she's so pretty, and the detective's like, not anymore. Like, that detective just was so overacted. I loved it. Like, pretty much anything that came out of his mouth was just so like, oh my God. You definitely went home and practiced these lines in the mirror and thought you were really good. Like, I'm nailing hard boiled.
I don't blame him.
So the one that I liked was at the end of Death Spa. I got all like the dudes confused because they all looked alike. Was, all right, bitch, I'll show you fried chicken. And I don't know why they bring fried chicken into this. I think he was he was like electrocuting her.
Because she said earlier when Michael walks into the room, at this point, Catherine has taken the physical form, right? Her ghost is physical form. She's in there. If you take another step, just one button I press, and she's fried chicken because she has Laura, his fiance or girlfriend, tied up on the tanning salon bed, which she can press a button to make her fried chicken. So he's bringing that back. I'll show you fried chicken.
I see. I'm going to start throwing that everyday vernacular.
Right.
I'll show you fried chicken.
I'll show you fried chicken. How about in Death Spa, Lieutenant Fletcher, who says, this accident nearly dissolved the girl, like an Alka-Seltzer, because he's very descriptive. Catherine, the wife who killed herself, has the best line, which is like anything close to serious at all, which is, "Let's die together and live forever in hell," which is
that's
awesome.
my only line that I got was Death Spa. Was that one, which I thought was like it's like living together. Is that an analogy for marriage, Jesse?
Yeah, I think so.
Again, getting back to
hell
like
on earth, right?
Yeah. Let's live together and live forever in hell.
Yeah,
was it supposed to be saying that?
Well, so
what do you think?
I think so. That's exactly what she wants.
I don't know if I think that.
That what they should live together in hell. That's what she's saying.
Oh, I mean, I think that's maybe what she's saying.
Well, that actually goes to I guess I should save it for questions. All right, never mind. All right, does anyone else have any quotes?
Saying I don't feel like that.
Does anyone else have any quotes? No, I have killer workout quotes. Let's see. When Jimmy and Chuck are about to get in a fight, and Jimmy, that's like the first fight, not the rematch. And Jimmy pulls up on him and he says, "Stay away from her," referring to Rhonda, "or I'm going to take you apart piece by piece." And then, of course, he swings on Chuck, who catches his. If anyone ever catches my punch in the air in a fist fight, it's over. I'm turning and running as fast as I can. Chuck catches his punch in the air and says, "You just made a big mistake." And he did.
Yeah.
Now, this is an overlooked one because it's actually garbled, which I guess the soundboard is not all it's cracked up to being killer workout. In the beginning, Valerie, who we later find out is actually
Rhonda.
pre-scarred up Rhonda. She's doing her thing. Actually, that intro scene is my favorite part of the whole movie. I don't know
I
why.
do like
It's
that.
weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's something about it is like, oh, she's happy. She's living her little life. We don't know what's going on. And she's checking her answering machine. And one of her girls, before she gets the call back from her agent telling her,
Oh my
she got the
God.
gig,
I know what you're talking about.
her friend comes up. It's the first
Incredible
message.
bulge in his pants.
I finally got a date from that guy at the lighthouse. I assume the lighthouse is a bar.
Yeah.
Finally got a date with the guy from the lighthouse. You know, the one with the incredible bulge in his pants. I can't believe it. Now, I have in my notes right here in a parenthetical, need to ask Jeannie if women look for bulges. Like, is that really a thing?
Oh,
Jeannie,
yes.
I turn the floor over to you.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I also need to say, too, the jockstrap scene when Jamie opens the locker and seems to be sniffing the jockstrap.
We have questions about that. We also have questions.
Yeah, I can honestly say, and I wrote this, I've never wanted to sniff a guy's jockstrap. Especially
But wait a second.
from
That
his
was some
gym
creepy
locker.
shit.
But wait a second. Women look at bulges on men.
Yeah.
Wow. Fucking hell.
But can you
Shit is stuff in
describe
my shit all
how's
these
that
years.
work? I mean, what's the architecture you're looking for?
The architecture. Sled, it's a bulge. It's a bulge, is what it is.
More of
I
an
don't know.
A-frame,
I mean, there's
I think,
probably
more of an
a shape. I mean, what's the shape? What's the dimensions? I mean, when we're looking at ladies, I mean, it's not just about size. It's about the architecture. It's like a fine piece of Michelangelo construction, Sistine
All right,
Chapel kind of thing. I mean, if you're just looking for
Guys,
size, you're losing out. Yeah, I mean, you're looking out. You're looking for more than that.
Don't try to convince her. I think she's pretty much size is where it is.
Art is all in the eyes of the critic. I'm
Right,
I'm asking for input. I mean, you brought it up.
We got to move to trivia and tidbits unless anyone else has any quotes.
Oh, you didn't want to.
We can only talk about dick so much.
Jesse,
here.
don't
Yes.
we can talk. Why? Don't be so sexist. I mean, we've been talking about titties for fucking 2 hours now or something. How long have we fucking been doing this?
Honestly, I feel like we haven't.
I could talk about dicks forever. I mean, I think that's maybe one of the themes of the whole podcast is like that. All the guys working out a lot are maybe thinking about what dicks. You know, maybe they're not thinking about the ladies.
Trivia and tidbits. I have plenty for this. Which I already said. Jimmy Fritz Matthews built the tanning salon, the tanning bed with his own hands. Ted Pryor, our guy Chuck Dawson, said in 2015 that the one thing he remembers most about making Death Spa was, quote, hanging out with hot girls all the time. So that's what he took from it. Let's see. There was apparently a sequel set to happen for Killer Workout, which I know Jeannie is dying for, but it never happened. Let's see what else I got here. You already said it, Sled, right? Filming took 3 weeks, and they said that they wrote it in 6 days. Is that right? Let's see. I got the extras in the shower scene in Death Spa were actually hired from a porn casting agency, and they had to work really hard. So that's why a lot of this continuity stuff was confusing in both movies, but particularly Death Spa, because the film had to be edited extensively apparently to avoid an X rating from the MPAA, the motion picture.
Yeah. And they work really hard.
Not hard enough, but yeah. Actually, there could have been a lot. What else you guys got? Trivia and tidbits. Anything you guys dug up?
Not really. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but
all right, we're
not
gonna
so
get
much
questions is next. Sled, Jeannie.
No, I think I have something that I probably should have said in a different section.
Throw it in. What do you got?
Well, it was this scene where at the end when everybody's locked in, and especially like it reminded me of Carrie, the scene in Carrie, right, where people are trying to get out, and it also It was just really, that was like really scary to me. Like, not like the stabbing, but I don't know, just not being able to get out of a place and like,
And it was all plate
Yeah.
glass windows. You could
Yes.
see them pressing against the
Yes.
wall to try to
Yeah,
get out.
yeah. Jeannie, I had a similar. I didn't remember until you brought it up, but I had a similar reaction. To
Yeah.
that. Like crowd stuff
Yes.
always bothers me. So, like one of the scenes that I find very unnerving in a movie is in the modern War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. There's a scene when the whole crowd is like freaking out right on a bridge, and he pulls a gun. It's like that, right? Or Thanksgiving. If you ever see Thanksgiving, the beginning of that,
Great
has a
flick.
crowd
Great
scene.
flick. We will cover that around. We'll cover that around Thanksgiving.
Yes, it reminded me of if anybody's seen The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah.
One of the episodes, do you remember in the house
dance club or whatever?
Yes,
it was?
Acid rained down and like people's faces are like that was.
They're crushing each other. Yeah.
Yes, that same. It was just that.
That's a really good catch. I didn't even think. about
that really made me think about that and Carrie as they were trying to get out with the locked doors.
Oh man, Carrie's so good.
I know.
So a couple more tidbits, and we can move right into questions, and then we'll be ready to rock. I did mention the Merritt Buttrick, that deal that we were talking about, Sled, with him sort of portraying someone who might be gay. He was in the movie Kingfish, where he did in fact play a male prostitute. So that was I did remember that correctly. An earlier draft of Death Spa for the script had a red herring, as if they needed any more fucking red herrings in the movie.
No.
They had a janitor living in the basement of the health spa who they were going to put in a bunch of, Easter eggs about how he did
is
it.
in Death Spa?
In Death Spa, yeah.
Okay, now that's really weird because that basement looked like Freddy Krueger's lair.
Well, that's why they would have him living in there, I guess.
I know,
presumably.
that's amazing.
I mean, that was a total missed opportunity. That could have been like Rudy.
Right. I feel
like Charles S. Sutton could have been living in that basement and fucking.
This is something, Jeannie, you haven't been with us for this, but this is the last segment before we get to questions. I forgot it. It's a really quick one. It's short. We might not even have anything for it. It's the Franklin Award for the character we were actually rooting for to get murdered, which stems from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, where there was a character named Franklin who we really hated and we wanted to die. So if you had one for that, go ahead and let me know what it is. If you didn't, we can keep it moving. For me, I had one who was from Death Spa, and it was, Jeannie, you mentioned him earlier, Freddy, that British goofball. He can't lift. He has no business being at the gym.
He was the everyman. He was the everyman showing.
Why are you fucking hating, Jesse? That seems like some self-hating.
Dude, man, I fucking hate that guy, man. He was like,
why?
He's just doing hacky bit after hacky bit, and like trying to push up on Darla, and like you can't pull Darla. Like it's a lot.
Yeah,
and, like,
he's getting bench press too confidence. He's trying to live in a world where it's not all based on what he looks like and what he can do.
And Marvin's
and you're buying into their propaganda.
Did anyone else have a Franklin Award?
Not in these two, for me at least.
Sled?
No, I honestly got nothing. I thought all the people in this were fucking pathetic, and I didn't want any of them to die. I felt sorry for every single person.
All right. Let's roll right into questions. And there are a ton of fucking questions because these movies make no sense. Whoever wants to lead off, let's get it going. Let's start hitting them with questions. Let's go.
I have one, and it's kind of, I had this as I was watching it. 52 minutes. I wrote this down. 52 minutes into Death Spa.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. It's where in the fucking hell is Ken Forey?
Ken Forey?
52 minutes. He's been, Kenny Forey was nowhere to be seen in that fucking movie.
That motherfucker wanted to get paid.
Right? Like, what?
He wasn't fucking
He's trying to get a paycheck. Thank you.
Budget on that goddamn thing was like, what up? $10,000 for everything?
Yeah, but he was barely in the movie. What are they doing? They got him there.
Oh,
he's like the fourth
build. That's a guy. That guy's a fucking. I mean, he's a semi-star. He's like, if you want me to be here, you're gonna fucking pay for every hour I am here. That's a guarantee. That's
All
what's
right,
happening.
we're saying-
I have a real plot question here, which we got to put our thinking hats on because these plots made no sense. So, Jimmy at some point starts trying to murder people to take the heat off of Rhonda. What is revealed, if we haven't mentioned prior to this, is that Jimmy's obsessed with Rhonda. His whole house is filled with pictures of Rhonda and guns and all kinds of shit. So he intuits that she's the murderer. He's going to take the fall for her. He kills fucking Chuck. He's doing all this stuff. He wants to be arrested in the place. He eventually comes back to the locker room at Death Spot, the Star Body Health Facility, and Rhonda shoots him and fucking kills him. Why does Rhonda kill him? That is your absolute alibi. That's the guy who's going to take the fall for you. What are you doing? That's my question.
Well, he still took the fall for her, right? She actually, I think, played it really well.
She killed
She
him.
murdered him.
You can't talk, man. Loose lips sink ships, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Jess, you're not thinking this all the way through.
Wait, but
he murdered her, or she murdered him, and like now she's the hero.
But getting rid of the pelvic thrusts and executing the meat curtains, i.e., his lips, shutting him down so he can't talk.
But how does she explain him getting murdered if he's the murderer? How does that?
He was a killer.
He killed him in self-defense.
Right. That
was the whole thing. That's how they closed out the movie.
Okay. All right.
So that made a lot of sense to me. I mean, I thought. Now, what doesn't make sense to me is what I've been saying the whole time: is why the fuck are either of these establishments still open?
Right? Where's OSHA?
Anything? Oh, I mean, good point. But
no
and
restrictions
also, why is
under OSHA
style
as far as hip thrusts.
Yeah.
Well, I have another real question. I have another
crime scenes with their fingerprints and footprints and pelvic prints and all that shit.
Pelvic.
I have another question then. So the tail end scene, which Sled you've referenced in Death Spa, no, I'm sorry, in Killer Workout, Lieutenant Morgan takes Rhonda, drives her out to the woods, basically says he's going to exact some fucking justice on his own, extrajudicial fucking murder by a police officer, which is apparently de rigueur these days. But he ends up getting whacked. Of course, he's giving his 10-minute soliloquy and not taking stock of where he is. He turns his back to her. She hits him with a fucking shovel and kills him. Why is there is no, this was the lead investigator to a series of 13 murders in a gym in a week span.
Just got solved.
Okay. Just got solved. Now the detective is missing. Is there anything that comes of this? How could this possibly be?
A sequel.
I thought about this too. Sequel?
A sequel? Is that what you said, son? There was a sequel. I told you they were going to do a sequel.
I mean, it only cost $35,000 or something, but
she absolutely winks at the camera like there's going to be a sequel,
right?
And what here's the to one and or yes and that, Jesse. I was looking at it and I was like, how the fuck is she going to get home? She drives home in his car, right?
Right.
She looks really guilty, right? Like, why are you in the detective's car?
Okay.
Right?
I might have a stupid question, but this is for Death Spa. Catherine, right, or the ghost of Catherine, is trying to presumably to drive her ex-husband, Michael, the owner of the gym, mad and or bankrupt. And she wants him to kill himself so she can meet him in hell. Simple question. Why?
I don't know.
I thought we already
couldn't figure it out.
Why, Sled? Why does she want her fucking husband, her surviving husband, her widower husband to kill himself?
I mean, I already played that to you. I thought we discussed the fact that they were married.
I think
she did immolate herself, right? Like she set herself on fire.
She's insane.
Yeah.
Well, the best I can get.
Was it his fault?
Well, what? Well, so here you go. Actually, her twin brother. I got your answer.
You're blaming it on her twin brother?
I'm about to in a second. Her twin brother David Merrick Buttrick says she never wanted that baby. He says early. So the best that I can surmise from this is that Michael really wanted to have kids. Catherine didn't. He knocks her up. She gets paralyzed during childbirth, and her child dies.
How do you
and
get
it ruins
paralyzed
her.
in childbirth?
Oh, dude, are you kidding me?
I'm
Everything can happen in
guessing
childbirth.
probably something with the spinal cord and
This
Yeah.
this is like alive, like the baby started eating the spinal cord.
Can we? my guess.
Finish your theory. I'm just giving you shit.
My guess is that she resented him greatly. He pushed her to have kids. She had this awful experience having kids. Her child dies, and she becomes paralyzed from the waist down. And she's like, I blame you for all of this. I never wanted kids. I'm going to kill myself, and then I'm going to haunt you from beyond the grave because of it. That's the best I could come up with. I don't know if that's it. If that's not it, I don't know what it
That
is.
makes some sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
resenting him because he made her go through that, and like she doesn't even have the baby to like show for it, but she's
Right.
got a will.
right.
I mean, did
I
she
might
have to
say-
work that hard? She just sat around, right?
I mean, he was making mad money. I mean, this is a big
Well, that's kind of ironic.
health spa.
He's in a wheelchair and he's got a health spa. I mean, she can't even participate.
I know.
Oh,
She
yeah,
was like,
I didn't even think of
she
that.
was-
Really?
She
His
was like,
whole-
your
the whole
your
thing-
exercise bikes suck. Your seated row hurts my ass. Like my pelvic floor is not dealing with this
Is
well.
this ADA compliant?
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
with, regard,
we're gonna get into cripple porn now.
with regard to Death Spa, is Starbody's computer system basically like HAL from 2001 or Skynet from Terminator in terms of like it forming sentience?
It's a segue.
That's what I was trying to figure out. But I guess it makes sense if Catherine was in the computer.
Yeah.
system.
It never made any sense.
I
That
would-
was actually. Are we in questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so my question related to that is like, why is Catherine fuck with the god? She's like a goddamn god. She was like fucking like
Yeah.
anything she wanted
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
She was like Pennywise. She was like I could anything that or beyond that. She's not just a fucking
I mean, think of what she did to Dr. Murray.
yeah. She's just like it didn't matter. She's just like to throw you around. Like that was actually my biggest plot
why did
gap.
she
Is like
need-
why did she need to do any of this? Like she's apparently omnipotent. Like she could do anything within this space, and she's like
Right.
jacking around with the computer. Unless she's just psychotic. I mean, because her husband was so awful to her.
I had more questions. If no, I have a lot of
Oh,
questions.
well, okay.
Um,
but how did
go
Lauren
ahead.
get blind?
Yeah.
Because
so-
that's my question. That's my question.
Well,
My-
I think I have an answer to that, but I'm not sure this makes sense. So hear me out. Because I wrote down, like reading my notes are actually
The
kinda crappy.
low
It
grade
just says-
chlorine vapor.
chlorine
That's exactly
vapor.
what I
Thank
think
you,
it was.
Jeannie.
That's
Okay.
exactly
And
what
by the
I think
way,
it was.
As a
The
former
only thing that made
life-
sense.
Hold on. She has some experience here.
Yes.
Miss Simone has some
Oh,
She was
background
a
here.
lifeguard. I remember.
former
Yeah.
licensed pool operator from Montgomery County, I definitely wrote down low grade chlorine vapor because I was
No.
definitely getting that as a lifeguard. And
Wait, is that
I
a
can
thing,
still
Jeannie?
see.
Is that a
So
is that a
I'm
real
not
thing?
quite sure. No.
You remember the episode where Michael was like, the fauna doesn't matter.
It was Texas Chainsaw. It was Texas
So
Chainsaw.
this is genies. The
Yeah.
fauna doesn't match the dirty.
All right,
That's excellent.
I have a question then. So is he cross-dressing or
I don't think
I don't.
Or-
I don't
Here's-
think so.
or is Catherine, when she possesses him, like taking on his physical form? And if so, if she is just simply inhabiting his physical body and he's not cross-dressing,
Are you
then
talking
why does
plot wise, or are you talking like actual execution?
wait, what do you? I'm not sure what you are.
So like,
saying.
what's supposed to be going on versus what they're filming?
What's supposed to be going on?
Okay, because I was just gonna
So-
say that the filming is terrible because it's obvious, it's very clear whenever it's him versus
Right,
it's
right,
somebody
right, right.
next door.
Versus
Right,
her,
right.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if that's the case, if she can simply inhabit his body and take on her own female form, if her goal is to reunite with Michael, then why not just inhabit someone and take your physical form as Catherine and be with Michael? What are we doing here? You don't have
Because
to be in
that's
hell.
not really her goal. She's trying to punish him.
She is like
Yeah,
wife would
I
do.
think that's
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. All right, now that's a little out of line.
What
all
were
right.
you saying? I want to hear it.
I was saying she wanted to punish him like any wife would do. Just like it's about him suffering,
Yikes.
not about. Okay,
Be a chump, Jesse. Step up to the fucking bar.
I have a question for you, Sled. This is a question directly for you, David. Since we're on the topic of David,
Which
as
one's
described,
David what?
the twin brother running the computer system who cross dresses.
I gotcha.
He is, according to the lieutenant reporting him, 6 feet tall, 135 pounds. I want to know what David does at lightweight. He could have been a monster. What do you got, Sled? 6 feet, 135.
He's a fucking nerd. He sits around like a goddamn computer. He doesn't do shit.
He could sweat down to 130. He could be at fucking junior lightweight at 6 feet tall.
I don't think he's got it. I mean, maybe if he brings a computer in, maybe if he wears a wig, like shakes it off, he's got some good moves. He's got some good he's like fainting him. Wow, with the wig flicking at him. It's like having a fancy pants. You got the fancy pants, throws the guy's eyes off it. You pop him with the right hand when he's not even looking because he's got that wig on and he's just shaking it out.
We didn't talk. I have one last thing, and then I want to get to the intro unless people have anything significant to offer. Jeannie, we mentioned it at the outset, and we haven't touched on it nearly enough. Killer Workout soundtrack.
Bangers, all of them.
I mean, I legitimately, this was...
Do you have any of them lined up so I can listen?
Well,
oh, God.
go ahead. I like, I was a little shocked. There was the animal workout one, and it was like if your body's too big and you're feeling like a hippo, like the lyrics were extremely...
The lyrics were crazy.
Yeah.
There was, you have Only You Tonight by Donna DeLore, which is...
Were any of these famous songs? I don't remember.
Good, I like that.
I didn't think so, right?
I remember reading something that he put out stuff to known artists to send me tracks that don't have copyright or something like that, like stuff that he could put in, like he was looking to get people who with name value to put in there.
That makes sense.
Here, I got you. Here, you want a snippet of Donna DeLore absolutely ripping the shit off the fucking roof here with Only You Tonight. Check it out. We're gonna kick it into hypothetical.
Hey baby, you sure look sexy.
You sure look sexy. Of course you do. Tell me you don't want... Dude, if this isn't Bloodsport, this is a hit. That's it.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I can see this.
Hold on. When she hits the chorus here, we're gonna. Let's go.
An innuendo. Reaching for your fantasy. Now, Jesse, who's your boy from Lost Boys?
Timmy Capello, of course, the infamous Timmy Capello.
That
sure.
goddamn wop. Do you think he could have performed this music better than these people?
Look, as much as I don't want to shit on Killer Workout because I thought that the soundtrack, as Jeannie and I have decided, is wonderful. No one on this fucking earth beats out Timmy Capello.
Was he an undiscovered gem just waiting with his saxophone on the fringes, and they could have called this guy and elevated these movies to the next level?
I'm going to give you one more song from...
By the way, dear listener, imagine these songs being played over top of 3 to 5 minutes of aerobics. That's what you have.
Bangers. There's no turning back. Talk to him.
The hunger I feel just won't be denied.
Let's go.
I'm a woman on fire and it frightens me so.
Are you kidding me
Bangers, all of them. And Pebbles Phillips, that was the animal workout song. by
Wait,
Pebbles.
wait, Pebbles? That's
It's
Not
all real
Pebbles.
heavy sin.
Pebbles-
It's pretty good.
no. Pebbles was their name.
Yeah. I mean, Duran Duran wishes they did this. Let's say that.
Yikes. Okay.
All right.
Shot.
We're going to have to bring it home here. Anything else? I'm going to close out real quick. All right. Okay, guys. I think that's all we got. Thanks again for listening, and get ready because our next episode will be up and ready for listening on Halloween. Get your Mike Myers masks ready because we have on the docket John Carpenter's 1978 original film Halloween, and we're comparing it with the Rob Zombie 2007 remake by the same name. Remember, if you have any questions or movie pairing suggestions, you can shoot us an email at choppingituphorrorpod@gmail.com. That's choppingituphorrorpod@gmail.com, or you can message us via Instagram at choppingituphorrorpod. We are up on all major streaming services, including Spotify, Line Notes, Amazon, and Apple. If you want to see how insane we look in person and maybe any pelvic thrusting, you can also check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Chopping It Up.